Travellers stranded as EasyJet flights between Bristol and Spain are cancelled.
The billionaire Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez finally tie the knot in Venice. In front of a star-studded guest list, we'll be live in Italy to get all the updates.
Would you feel safe in a driverless car? We'll debate that later in the programme.
And fans are continuing to enjoy Glastonbury as Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts are expected to headline tonight.
I bet Anne's favourites.
Well, Neil.
And our reporter Charlie Peters takes on the 13 Bridges Challenge to raise money for military veterans. We'll join him along the route.
A very good morning. The soft launch is over and today it's the real thing. The Lions get their tour underway this morning against the Western Force in Perth. And Thomas Tuchel will make the trip to Slovakia this evening to throw his support behind England's under-21s as they take on Germany in the Euro final.
Another heatwave on the way for many of us, but it won't be hot everywhere during the next few days. Significant differences across the UK. Full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. I've never heard of the Chrome Hearts, have you?
No.
Oh.
I haven't heard of most people.
It's not just me.
No,
well,
I haven't
heard of Neil
any.
Young.
Neil Young,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard of most of them at Glastonbury this time round.
No. Well, they've obviously gone for a big name that most of us know.
Yeah.
And somebody, you know...
Yeah, for the young people. Tell you what we should be leading on this morning.
Yes, what?
David Beckham has had a wrist operation.
Oh.
Which I sort of think we should mention. Just because I remember... Do you remember when he broke his metatarsal?
Yes.
2002.
2002. Well, that was top story back then. We had graphics showing what a metatarsal was.
Oh, yes, that's right.
You
Yeah.
used to be breaking your foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you remember what else? Do you remember what else they did? On the front of one of the tabloids, I think it was The Sun, they said that at a certain time of the day when he was having his operation, we all had to put our hand on the foot.
Oh, that's right. We all had to
yes.
To give him extra
Yeah.
power.
To heal
Yeah.
him. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But the reason I say it's important is because this is from an injury he sustained in an England game 22 years ago.
Oh.
Anyway, so he's had an operation on his wrist.
Oh, get better soon.
It was just reminded me of the
Lord,
metatarsal.
Sir, whatever he is.
Oh, yes.
Look,
So-
where's the award?
Here we go.
Because I haven't had a gloat.
haven't had
I
a
need a
gloat.
gloat. That's a gloat. Thank you very much. Oh, kind. Yeah. Well done. Wasn't it lovely?
It was very, very
Well done,
nice.
team. I mean, there's a lot of people back there who slave away through the night.
This is it. This is it, and I think this is what we always try and say, is
Yeah.
that it's not about us.
No.
It's about everyone who works on the
team.
show.
It's the people who put in... You know, we moan about getting up at 2:15 in the morning.
And it's
But-
voted on by the public as well.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it makes it so special.
Exactly.
It really is. So well done, all of us, but particularly that lot back there behind the glass.
The
that
ones you
don't
don't
see.
get to see.
Yeah, although we will be meeting a couple of them a bit later on because they're doing the 13 Bridges thing, aren't we?
Well, Charlie Peters, who you
yeah.
know is doing it,
But Will is also going
Will
to be
is
there,
doing it,
isn't he?
but I think he's going to be producing the segment, so I don't think he's going to be in front of the camera.
But they are the guys who
Probably
really should have
just
been on the
as well.
stage getting the award because it ain't easy being backstage in a breakfast programme because we really
isn't.
work through the night. At least we get the benefit of makeup in the morning.
You do.
Yeah. Well, you obviously think you're beautiful enough not to need it. Although I have to say, some of the makeup ladies do sort of haunt you a bit, don't they?
They do.
They hover around you, ready to... The minute you don't look, they're powdering your nose.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the makeup. You're one of
don't
those
like
old-fashioned
makeup.
guys who thinks makeup is...
I just...
wimpy?
No, I don't think that at all. I used to have it slapped on so much in other places that I've just sort of gone off it now.
I see.
I'm like
Do you
Adrian,
remember,
who likes...
the airbrushing? Do you remember that was a
Airbrush, yeah,
that was
you
a
get
thing.
airbrush.
airbrushing, yeah.
You used to get this contraption, this like metal thing that looks like something really weird from the X-Files, and you get it sprayed all over you. And if it was in the morning, it'd aggravate your contact lenses. I'm glad that's been phased out.
Yes, that didn't last too long, did it? No, it was a fad. Anyway, we're talking about makeup now. That's not what you want to hear.
It's not what you want to know. It's about the NHS. Because there's a major NHS overhaul. Hospital funding will become dependent on patient ratings.
Yes, it's going to mean that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied we patients are with their treatments.
Well, the changes come in hopes, apparently, to cut down waiting lists. I don't know how it'll affect all that. It's part of the Prime Minister's 10-year plan to restore the NHS.
Head of the NHS, Sir Jim Mackey, has welcomed the move. He claims the health service views patients as an inconvenience.
Which is slightly worrying.
Some say that, don't they?
Yeah, surely that can't be the case. It all follows the government's U-turn on welfare, of course, following backlash from backbench Labour MPs.
Well, joining us now, political commentator Peter Barnes. Morning.
Good morning.
When they say that they're going to concentrate more on community care and digital services, that frightens me.
Yes, it should, because the two most terrifying words have been used in this: modernising and reducing inequality. When you hear that and anything to do with this government, you should all panic and start buying tinned goods. This is nothing but a headline grabber. It is basically TripAdvisor for hospitals. It's ridiculous. It does not tackle the kind of fundamental problems that the NHS faces, which is workforce shortage, infrastructure is outdated, and resource allocation. Those are what they should have been tackling, and this is just, you know, like a bit of a shiny trinket to dangle in front of the public.
But the idea of modernising and digitising, I mean, it will refocus some of the how we allocate things within the NHS, won't it? It will be a bit of a time saver.
Well, you'd hope.
If it works.
If it works. This is the big thing, if it works. We've tried this modernising and digitising so often now that, you know, you often wonder, well, what have they gone from, like, dial-up to broadband or Wi-Fi? It's rather crazy, really, how much effort we put into modernising, because by 2030, it's estimated we're going to spend the same amount on the NHS as the GDP of Portugal. That is completely unsustainable. And yet this government is just throwing money at the problem, hoping that it'll fix it. That is not the solution here. We need real root and branch reform, and it needs a fundamental reshift in the public's mind that you can't just, you know, have the NHS and abuse it. I think the public have taken the NHS for granted, and now the NHS, as Jim Mackey's perfectly right, it has pushed people away. But I still don't understand why he was ever given a knighthood. As far as I'm concerned, he should have been given a pink slip and a box.
I don't get this idea where Jim Mackey says the NHS views patients as an inconvenience. Not on the front line.
Yeah,
So what's he saying about management?
Well, this
there are
is the
too
thing.
many, aren't there?
There's too many. The whole thing is kind of financial refocus and kind of restructure to get rid of the management. And the idea of this is that it goes round managers who can fiddle the numbers and all that kind of thing. But unfortunately, there's so many core problems that the NHS faces that, you know, unfortunately, clinical outcomes aren't the same as patient satisfaction. So you could have the best outcomes as a hospital, but patients might not like the food, and therefore they get a terrible rating, therefore they get less funding. You've also got the problem of poor hospitals tend to be in poorer areas, so they're not going to have the resources, so therefore they'll get a worse rating, so therefore they'll get less money. There really has not been a lot of forethought that's gone into this, considering it's supposed to be for 10 years. You know, it looks like it's more 10 minutes or 10 seconds, really.
It's almost, it feels as though they're sort of outsourcing the problem to us, the public.
Yes.
It's down to you to rate a hospital, and then you will get the treatment that you deserve.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be the NHS. The NHS should be blanket good.
Yeah, definitely. It's also going to have the problem of people wanting to go to certain hospitals because they've got a better rating. You know, that you're going to get a lot of doctor
You know how
shopping
they
that you get in
hang
America.
banners outside schools saying this school is medium rated or something? If you were in an ambulance and they were taking you to a hospital that said this is rated poorly, you'd say, no, I don't want to go to that one, I want to go to the next one.
It's the same with the food standards thing, you know, where you got the red, yellow and green kind of food safety things. It'll be exactly the same as that. And it's one of those things that on paper this looks like a great idea, but just dig under the surface just a little bit and it all collapses because, again, it doesn't tackle the real structural problems the NHS faces. I mean, there's £13 billion deficit in its kind of capital investment. So you can increase the day-to-day spending all you like, but it's not tackling the problems. And this is what the Labour Party really do not grasp. As far as I'm concerned, the NHS has failed. It is done. And unfortunately, this is not going to save it.
Well, what do you do? Then if it's done, you said, well, if it's done, you need to replace it.
Yeah.
But fine, but that is not... Even if you had the perfect thing to replace it with, it still would be a very painful process.
Yeah, it will be. And unfortunately, it will only be more painful because we haven't done the necessary reforms back when they should have been done. We've just tinkered around the edges again and again and again. And unfortunately, the entire thing has collapsed.
It's too big to fail.
Well, that's the problem.
It's like 2008.
Yeah, this is the thing. When it was first kind of brought to the public in 1948, it was said to be a temporary measure, though there was a very famous American economist who said there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government programme. And the NHS is a prime example of that.
Well, they're saying this is a 10-year.
Well, this government's probably not going to last 10 years, so if I'm being honest, so whether this funding is going to even be in place by the time, this is part of the problem, is because there's no stability in the government, a lot of this is kind of for the birds at the moment.
Can I ask you about the welfare bill? Because obviously we had this. It's not a U-turn. Doesn't even do it. It was a major climb down from the Prime Minister on this, and yet an awful lot of these 120 rebels seem to be saying, we're still going to vote against it. We're still not happy.
Oh, 100%. Diane Abbott came out very clearly and said they are not backing down till it is dropped. Not these little reforms and these little changes, till it is dropped. And this is the reality. The Prime Minister is no longer in charge. That is what this has proven. He has no authority. He is done. And, because all the rebels have shown is that you get enough of them and the cabinet is irrelevant. I mean, Keir Starmer's out in the cold. He's got no allies, not really, because he's played everybody against each other. He's essentially lied his way into office, as far as I'm concerned. And this is all of his own making, because he doesn't stand for anything and he's no backbone.
He doesn't even read his speeches before he speaks.
What's more concerning is that this is yet again another policy without an official impact assessment. That was the farmers, didn't have one. Winter fuel allowance, didn't have one. This government is doing things without thinking further ahead. It is dangerous.
But the problem is that even if they only go... Even if it all gets through on what they've now agreed to, they've got to find an extra 1.5 billion.
Yeah.
If they drop the plan altogether, what's that they've got to find? About an additional 3.5 billion on top of that, something like that.
Yeah.
We haven't got the money.
No, we haven't. So tax rises are an inevitability. We can't really scale back. They can say they're going to make cuts, but, they're not really in the position to make the real cuts that we need, because, in all honesty, the 5 billion was nowhere near as drastic as it needed to be. The welfare bill is going to go up 77 billion by the time of the next general election. That is completely unsustainable. This is the point, is that it's not just about tackling, benefit claimers or anything. It's about changing the culture. We can't have 500,000 people not working because they're on long-term sick payments. We physically can't, and we will never grow the economy with that kind of culture.
There was a figure out last week saying, and I don't know how they work it out and on what basis, but 24% of the working population in this country are now classed as disabled.
Yeah.
Now, that can't be...
That's enormous.
That can't be right, because that cannot be disability as we would normally consider it.
No, this is the thing. What they do is they have these very broad definitions and they're very low criteria. I mean, there was one case of I think he was a 21-year-old, 22-year-old who was signed off work permanently over a telephone call. A telephone call. He didn't even have to see anybody in person, and that is the state of the situation. So, and yet, you've got the government buying people cars because they've got depression. We can't sustain that kind of culture, and this is where I do think that the people do have to take responsibility here and start saying, do you know what? We've got to go to work. We've got to have some dignity back in Britain, because unfortunately we've had what did Blair call it, a hand out rather than a hand up culture, and he was right there, I have to admit, but most of what the government is offering in terms of reform right across the board is not even going to touch the sides, I'm afraid.
And talking very quickly of reform, Rod Stewart has said that he rather likes Nigel Farage and thinks he'll vote reform next time.
Yep, and I think a lot of people probably will. I think he'll do incredibly well at the next general election. I mean, most MMR polling is putting them
it's even
right
made
ahead.
the front page of the Times.
Yeah. Because, reform is doing brilliantly, but again, what I will say is that we've got to start asking, what are you going to do? And more importantly, how are you going to do it? The reason we are in this catastrophic mess is because we never asked how. And we just kept saying, oh, yeah, I like that, I like the sound of that, I like the sound. They get into office, they suddenly find out that it's not going to be anywhere near possible. It's going to cost 3 times more, and yet there's always the taxpayer left footing the bill. Yeah. I think reform and all political parties should be very careful about promises they make, even now. Yeah, well, I think that's a very fair point. Peter, thank you very much indeed. I'll tell you what winds me up slightly, and we know they do it, the government does it. They say, well, it's all down to 14 years of Tory mismanagement. Well, we had that a lot from our government round yesterday. I can't help but think, why aren't we saying, but you've had 14 years in opposition to prepare...
think about it, yes.
To actually come up with a plan that doesn't now seem to be getting enacted in a way that is working vaguely, even vaguely, at the moment. But anyway, next time we talk to the government, we'll perhaps put that to them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Get the same thing back.
Well, yes, we will, yeah.
But anyway, it's 6:15 already. Now, over the other side of the pond, President Donald Trump hails the Supreme Court's decision to curb injunctions on plans to ban birthright citizenship.
This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank, again, the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today.
Well, the decision means anyone born in the US to illegal immigrants will no longer automatically be granted citizenship.
Now, while the White House has praised the ruling as a significant win for the Constitution, there are, of course, concerns that it will expand the president's power.
Let's talk to Republican commentator Nora Lee Notson. Good to see you
Great
this
to
morning.
See you.
Explain to us how this works, then, in terms of the implications it could have on the power of the president just to enact whatever he wants.
Firstly, it's important to recognize that both Democratic and Republican presidents have more recently been using executive powers to get and executive orders to get their policies in play instead of legislating through Congress where it gets bogged down. Now, what's happened is the federal judges in the district court, they have been blocking over 40 of the executive orders of Trump since he started as president in his second term. Now, what the Democrats have been doing is they've been filing cases in very liberal districts with very liberal judges. Think San Francisco, think Washington, D.C., think Boston, and to basically just paralyze his executive orders to cut and neuter his power. So this is very important because now any president, whether it's Donald Trump or a Democratic president, can have the power to do their job.
But isn't there an element of danger that you end up turning the presidency into a monarchy? In that you can come into power and literally do almost anything you want by executive order.
It's important to note that this doesn't stop cases being brought in court, but the ruling will apply to those plaintiffs. So if a case is brought on the birthrights and the court finds that no, these individuals are allowed to have their birthrights, that will be upheld. But what the Supreme Court has said is that it is overreach from these district judges, federal judges, who don't have the power to dictate what are the policies that are the president's policies.
What is the problem, then, or at least the perceived problem, with birthright citizenship?
So the perceived problem is that it's being abused, that people who are not even American citizens are coming in illegally into the United States of America and having children there so that they can then have American citizenship. And so now this question has not been solved by the Supreme Court yet, and this will go to the Supreme Court. So the constitutionality of that has not been solved. What's been solved is the power of federal judges in district courts. They don't have the power to stop the President of the United States from enacting his duties, which they're mostly doing through executive orders.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying that it almost creates an emperor of the president. He can do what the heck he likes, whoever he is, or she, in the future. Is there any cogency to that argument?
I can understand why people would make that argument, but you have to have faith in your president. I think if there was something that was absolutely outrageous, I would have total faith in our country and our system and our checks and balances to put a stop to it. But everything that Trump is doing is actually very popular, and it makes a lot of sense. Imagine here. Illegals come in, they have children, and they suddenly become a UK citizen. I don't know, how would you feel about that?
Well, it's sort of happening. It feels as though it's... Again, it's a perception, isn't it? But it feels as though that is deliberately happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the situation is over here, but certainly that was... I know it causes a lot of concern in the States. Yeah.
Well,
No,
we've got
interesting.
cases where there are illegal migrants
Right.
who have children here and then argue that they can't be deported because they have children here. It's
Oh,
not
yes,
quite
yeah,
the
yeah.
same,
Right.
but you know, it's clearly happening even now.
I mean, this all ties in with his policy of limiting illegal immigration and trying to take care of the Americans that are legally there and deserve to be there.
Has he? There's a perception with Trump that maybe it's because he makes a bigger deal of it all.
Right.
The whole. He seems to be signing more executive orders than we've seen before. Is that true, or is he just doing what everybody else has done, Democrat or Republican alike?
I think what's happened is you've had more injunctions against Donald Trump's executive orders in this century than any other president. And because that's been in the press a lot, it appears to be so. But he's a man of action. I mean, if you look at everything he's done in 1 week, it's monumental. I mean, everything he's done in just 1 week.
The narrative has changed, I've found, as well, because I watch a lot of American news channels
Right.
as well. And those that used to be absolutely critical of every breath he ever took
Right.
are sort of rationalising the things he's done. And there's no doubt that he has had an amazing effect in the last week.
He's had an amazing effect.
Whether it
on-
lasts or not is an entirely different issue, but the point is he has done stuff.
He's done stuff. He's tried to take out the threat of Iran. He's focusing on peace. He's gotten Europe now to shore up on defense and spend on defense. You know, he's working on the trade tariffs. They are not being as impacting the economy as much as people were expecting. So he's done quite a bit in a short period of time. And I think that's extraordinary.
Do you think he looks tired?
Oh, I hadn't noticed that, to be
I
fair.
thought he was looking tired. But
he's
then
been
I
bad,
thought, I was thinking, is he getting a bit old or showing his age or whatever? But then he has had a very busy week.
Yeah.
I think he looks energized. I think he looks great. He looks like Donald Trump. You know, he doesn't drink. He's just a man who likes to get things done. And he sticks to his word. And I think people respect that. Whether they love him or not, they respect that he sticks to his word.
OK. Norah Knotson, good to see you. I mean,
Fascinating.
I think that's a really interesting point because there are, I mean, 50% of the population in the States didn't vote for him, pretty much. I mean, it's always sort of split 50-50-ish in the States.
Yeah.
But he says something and then he does it. Now, whether you disagree with that, at least you know where you stand, which I think is something, whereas in this country, I feel what people are getting tired of is the fact that things are always said and then nothing happens.
Or the opposite is done. You know, or there's backtracking and flim-flam.
Yes, so we
And
have a
you
lot
cannot
of flim-flam.
accuse, although when President Trump opens his mouth, anything can come out, clearly. He does, when he says he's going to do something, he does it.
He does
and
it.
That's pretty impressive, even if you don't like what he did.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Anyway, I'm sure you'll let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. It's 6:23. It is nearly here. That much-awaited return of Oasis. The reunion tour starts next week. But according to new data, fans have already faced millions of pounds worth of ticket scams.
Well, yeah, and that's been brewing for ages, hasn't it? Our North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper spoke to a victim of one of those scams, as well as a couple of Oasis superfans, ahead of the band's first tour date next Friday.
Next week, one of the biggest events ever for the world of music. The much-anticipated return of the one and only Oasis. The Gallagher brothers will kick off their reunion tour at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, performing to crowds of thousands of fans, both old and new. But since the tour was announced, some might say things have been far from supersonic.
In my heart, I wanted it to be true, which is why I believed it. I never thought I'd fall for a scam. They're just very smart. They know how to get you.
When tickets went on sale last August, millions were left disappointed. Sites crashed, dynamic pricing sent costs through the roof, and many were unable to obtain tickets. This opened the door to con artists who've since scammed over 5,000 fans out of more than £2 million.
I came across a video on TikTok of a girl around my age. She said she was selling 4 Oasis tickets and I was interested in buying 2. And she sent a screenshot from Ticketmaster telling her that she could only send 2 or more tickets. So I just made both payments. So that was £250 and she just kept stalling. And it got to the point where I knew I wasn't going to be sent the tickets.
Following the sheer volume of scams, online safety experts McAfee want people to take all necessary precautions. They gave GB News their top tips for staying safe around potential scams. Look out for heavily discounted tickets. Be wary of sellers appearing in your inbox. Don't make payments without protection. And watch out for lookalike websites and for grammar and spelling errors. And yet, as the tour gets ever closer, for superfans like brothers Josh and Connor, nothing has been able to dampen their Oasis fever.
We've been Oasis fans all our lives. It's the best feeling ever. I never thought this would happen. I thought they were done in 2009, so to be able to actually see them live is going to be incredible.
Nothing will ever top them, do you know what I mean? I think the best music's already been made, and it was them, and that's it. No one will ever top that, so yeah, it's once in a lifetime, really.
I only want to see the light that shines behind your eyes.
For many fans of the band, they've waited years for a chance to see Liam and Noel reunite on the stage. And although even the band themselves have advised caution when buying last-minute tickets,
Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide.
the UK still seems to be in for an Oasis-style champagne supernova this summer. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
Oh, do you have to wear a beanie hat to be an Oasis fan?
Yes, it's obligatory.
Oh, I see.
It's part of the membership thing. Yeah. I mean, look, I sort of think they were of their time a little bit, but I was never a massive fan.
No, me either.
But people who are just adore them.
Yeah, they really are.
They're lyrically very clever. So, there you go.
OK.
Anyway, right, should we see what the weather's going to do for you?
Yes, please.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers. A cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland. Drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales. Turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, one of the richest men in the world has tied the knot again. We'll tell you more in a moment.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. even the rain. We like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Now, the world's rich and famous have flocked to Venice this week as the billionaire tech mogul Jeff Bezos and former journalist Lauren Sanchez tied the knot in a $20 million Venetian wedding yesterday.
Ugh. Can you imagine anything worse? If I was going to marry one of the richest men in the world...
You'd want to spend more than that?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd go down in the pub, wouldn't you? You wouldn't go to Venice. I don't understand it. Anyway, locals protested the wedding, and Donald Trump declined the wedding invitation.
Yes, but his daughter went there. Ivanka went with her husband, Jared Kushner.
Okay, that's a protester there sitting with almost nothing on. Is that making a statement of some sort?
I don't...
Was it an effigy of... Oh, it was an effigy of Bezos, apparently.
I don't know.
Why on earth?
I don't know. Well, you've got the money, sort of why not? But anyway, let's talk to Nick Pisa, who's in Venice for us this morning. I mean, look, quite a spectacle. Quite a busy few days, Nick.
Yes, it has been 3 days of wedding festivities. They come to an end this evening with a gala masked ball theme at the Arsenale, which is a collection of old warehouses on the north of Venice. This 3-day wedding, you say, kicked off on Thursday with an event at the church, the Madonna dell'Orto, which came to a very premature end after a huge thunderstorm swept in across the city. You may have seen pictures of the guests having to scurry for cover under umbrellas. Water taxis scrambled to pick Lauren Sanchez, Jeff Bezos, Kim Kardashian, in fact, several of the Kardashian sisters, Ivanka Trump, Oprah Winfrey, all had to leave the party early because, as you said there, you may have all the billions in the world, but you can't really control the weather. And I can tell you it was an absolutely torrential thunderstorm that hit Yesterday, the weather was much better. They tied the knot on the island of San Giorgio in a very discreet, very private ceremony, and we could hear music coming over from the walls. I think the opening sound was Elvis Presley, sung by Matteo Bocelli. The opening track was I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. Some people have said it might be a bit tacky, actually, but it certainly went on into the wee small hours.
It's funny you use that word tacky because, I mean, they're spending billions on this wedding and all the A-listers supposedly are there as well. But there is this sort of touch of tackiness about it, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're spending, as you said there, $20-odd million, if not more, I mean, I've seen estimates saying around $40 million, which is an eye-watering amount of money. It does sort of get at you a little bit. It does sort of raise the heckles a bit, if you like, doesn't it? I mean, it does seem such an extraordinary amount of money to spend. And as you said in your introduction, there are protests. There have been obscene phrases and sentences against oligarchs, which is probably too early to say in the morning, projected onto the St Mark's Bell Tower. I can tell you that a very large protest is also planned today, and the police are on standby. They're expecting hundreds of protesters to come into Venice from all over northern Italy, because there is a rally starting from Santa Lucia station in the heart of Venice, which will go down to St Mark's Square. That will arrive in St Mark's Square just as the guests are leaving to head to that Arsenale venue. The original plan was for them, I don't know if you can see the canal behind me here, the original plan was for people to come and dive and jump into this canal and throw inflatables into the canal to try and block the taxis taking those guests to that venue. There's also been some gripe here amongst Venetians as well, because they've chosen a Neapolitan, a southern Italian caterer for the wedding, as opposed to a Venetian one, which has got them up in arms as well.
Oh dear.
I know.
They do better ice cream, Neapolitans, don't they?
One of our viewers has already been in touch saying, if I was a billionaire, I would pay any amount of money not to go through a 3-day wedding. I can't think of anything worse.
Well,
I suppose you do have to ask yourself, sorry, you do have to, why pick Venice? You know, unless you want to be. It does have a tacky element to it. I have to agree. Yeah.
OK. Nick, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the weather, if not the tackiness.
Yeah. We've really done it, haven't we, for billionaires?
I sort of think, well, look, if they want to do it, fine. Yeah. It's up to... I tell you what always grates against me, though, is things like... So amongst the guests, Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner, Ivanka Trump, Oprah Winfrey, Tom Brady, Usher, Leonardo DiCaprio, Orlando Bloom, Bill Gates. Do they really know all these people? Or do they just say, we're going to invite a load of famous people because it looks good?
Yes.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
And then the press all go there and watch out for them, and if they don't see them, they don't question whether they were there or not, really. Right. It's interesting that President Trump made it known that he wasn't going.
Yeah.
Quite right, too. Anyway, if that's what Bezos wants to do with his millions, fine, but...
Yeah.
We don't really want to bathe in it ourselves, do we?
No.
Talking of money, though.
Oh, yes.
54321 time. British giveaway, your chance to win £54,321. It's the biggest cash prize to date. I'm sure you know that by now. And it could be yours. Here's Hayley Sparks with all of the details.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life. Somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, best of luck to you. Right, it's time now for the Daily Reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hello, my name is Johnny Dade and I'm a vicar in the Church of England. Now, I'm a dad of a 4-year-old boy, and I love the classic children's book, Guess How Much I Love Me. In the story, little nut brown hare says to big nut brown hare, I love you to the moon and back. How far would you go for love? John 3:16 says, God so loved the world that he sent his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. The extent of God's love was demonstrated in him stepping down from the heights of heaven and entering a wayward world. In Jesus, the light of the world stepped into the darkness. In dying and then rising, Jesus assumed our humanity and then redeemed our humanity. As a kid in Sunday school, we used to sing a song about how Jesus came from heaven to earth, from the earth to the cross, and from the cross to the grave. The song is short and it's a bit whimsical, but the journey it describes is the longest and most profound in history. Jesus gave his life that we might choose life. So how far would you go for love? For us, God has truly gone the distance.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
And Tom, look what I received this morning.
This is so sweet. Oh!
Isn't that cute? From one of our viewers and listeners. A little, I think it's homemade.
Shall I hold it up?
Yeah, you hold it up. And a little tiny matching hat as well, which is very cute. Goes up here. So there you go, a little matching hat.
Look
and
at
also
that.
a lovely little blanket as well. Wow. This is from Judith from Leeds, who wrote me a lovely little letter, and to Patrick as well, wishing us well, saying that she loves watching our shows, and I hope we enjoy this little outfit. So there you go.
It's like your little baby is with us already.
So yes, Judith, I hope you're watching, because thank you very much indeed. It's really sweet of you to send that to me. It took a little while to get to us, but we've got it this morning, so that's so cute.
It's incredible craftsmanship, actually.
I'll make sure to take a little picture when the baby arrives.
Are you sure your baby isn't going to be French?
There's something French around it. It's a good thing I like France, so there you go.
Oui, oui.
That's very cute indeed. I just thought I'd say thank you, because it was a really nice surprise this morning.
Yeah, no, it is actually really, really lovely. It does, I mean...
To bring a tear to your eye, Tom.
Well, we haven't really...
Feeling very emotional.
I was going to say...
New life.
We haven't really mentioned, your pregnancy in a little while. And
after the big reveal.
You're still with us for a few months more before your due date.
I have to depart, yes. Yeah. Don't worry, you've got me for a little longer. We'll see how it goes.
Marvellous.
See how it goes. It'll be rolling me in. before I leave this desk.
It'll be a GB baby.
GB News baby. GB baby.
GB News, the People's Channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Aidan's here, and I feel Wimbledon coming on. I'm getting excited, but there's probably other sport to talk about.
Yeah, there is. We're going to do a lot of Wimbledon next hour because it's to chew over with that. But let's just focus on the Lions this morning because they're underway from 11 o'clock against the Western Force in Perth. They'll be well supported down there, of course, because of a strong expat community in that particular part of Australia. And quite frankly, Stephen, Andy Farrell, the coach, is looking for a response. They didn't play well against Argentina last week, and that's prompted him to make 13 changes. Now, that was probably mostly his second-line players last week, but he would have wanted them to stake their claim for a first-team place. And quite frankly, they just they're not going to be. They didn't do enough last week, so it's going to be different personnel this week. And he said, "I want to put some pressure on this side because I want to see how they respond." Now, the Lions is a gruelling tour. I mean, last week they played against Argentina in Dublin. As I say, they got beaten by 4 points. But
sort of warm-up, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I'd call it a soft launch, really. Yeah. But then the players then fly off as they did last Saturday. Now, it's a bit like a touring side coming to England and playing against 3 games against England and then 6 other games against local sides. Now, the local sides are made up of players who almost made it into the Australia side, but who have a point to prove, and they're not going to be easy. However, Western Force finished 9th out of 11th in the Super League in their regular season, so you would fancy that the Lions would at least win today, but they're looking for more than a win, Stephen. They want a convincing victory. They want a large points margin. And now it should put them in good fettle for the challenges that lie ahead.
A large points margin?
Yeah.
Good, I like the sound of that. Can't say it, but I like the sound of it.
A big win.
A big win. All right, Aidan, we'll see you later. Thank you. Still to come, we're going to take...
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm afraid it's a very, very quick look through the papers this hour with Duncan Barks and Kevin Schofield. We promise you a lot more time next time around. Can we have a look, though, at the Telegraph, Kevin?
Yeah, so this is research by a linguistics expert called Noel Wolfe, who says that if you use a full stop in a text message, you're old.
Yeah.
Young people think that is like a passive-aggressive statement by using
just
a full
putting
stop.
a full stop in the text.
Apparently so. It means that. Well, you were talking about this earlier, Duncan.
We were talking outside earlier. So I have a daughter who's 21, and we had a conversation a while ago where she said, you know, sometimes the full stop can be seen as a little bit aggressive. And I'm like, it's the English language, it is grammar, what's the matter with you? And I'd put a kiss afterwards, so there should be no debate that I'm cross with you or angry. But there appears to be a generation coming through, starting with Generation Z, who don't like the full stop.
But how do you read anything if there's no grammar in it?
Well,
this is what I don't understand.
But they understand it, so they now use punctuation in a different way.
Yeah. Well, they don't
they were taught.
use punctuation.
Well, apparently they use like quotation marks, not as quotations, but to denote sarcasm. So if you say someone is fine, it means they're not really fine.
Whereas Donald Trump just goes everything capitals, doesn't he?
He does.
He wants to make a point.
And that's like someone shouting at you, isn't it?
Yes, it really
and then
is.
this gets us
Which
into
is
the whole
aggressive.
area
Yes, it is
of
aggressive.
emojis as well.
Yeah.
What should you use? What can you use? I mean, I like to think sometimes a smiley face is pretty acceptable if you're just having a bit of fun. But some people are like, well, that could be just a little bit too much in terms of being a little bit over-familiar.
If you send a thumbs up, I always feel that's not enough. It's a bit terse. It's a bit
I know. I mean,
it just shows that we do interpret things, you know, that may not be meant.
Not as bonkers.
All of us around here would use full stops,
yes,
right? Of course we would. Yeah.
And I like exclamation marks as well, I'm afraid.
Well, Kevin,
several of them.
Well, you have to be careful.
Well,
I know
exclamation
that's
mark
perceived
probably
as
does
aggressive.
seem very aggressive, when in actual fact it just denotes shouting, doesn't it? But that's how we were taught.
No, you know, good morning, exclamation marks 5 times is just happy.
Yeah. I suppose if you use multiple exclamation marks, it's all open to interpretation.
It is.
Duncan, we've got time to have a look at house prices. What is dropping our house prices, according to the Mail?
Gnomes. Now, I haven't seen gnomes for a long time. Have you seen any gnomes?
Oh, you haven't driven around Bournemouth. No, I'm sorry, I'm not doing Bournemouth down because I love Bournemouth.
The gnome capital?
But around near where my sister lives, lots of gnomes in the garden.
Yeah, so there's this story.
It seems to be very important if you live anywhere near the seaside, you put gnomes in your garden.
Well, it can knock £12,000 off your house price.
Why? Because you remove them.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm not against gnomes, but some people consider them to be a little bit naff. So consequently, people look at a house and go, "Oh, got some gnomes there."
I was told once because I was selling a house that I had a grand piano in my living room, and the estate agent said, "Get rid of the piano."
Really?
People will perceive that as not the sort of house they want.
It's if your neighbour has got the garden gnome. So if you're trying to sell your house and the neighbour's got them,
I see.
somebody comes round like, I don't want to move in next to somebody that has gnomes.
Right, we're going to have to leave it there.
You've got a garden gnome. We want to hear about it, though, please.
Yes. Right, here's the weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales. Turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Welcome to the Bakerloo line, where over the last year, 2 years, every single carriage seems to have been just absolutely covered in graffiti. So we're out this morning to try and do what the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, seemingly can't. Let's clean up the tube. Look, these doors used to be covered in graffiti, but no more. See, it's not impossible.
Not impossible it is, because there is so much that can actually be done. And just a few friends of mine, actually a guy called Joe Reeve, who organised this all, he's from the campaign group Looking for Growth. And he got in touch and said, do I want to come? And I was like, absolutely, I bloomin' do. Because I think we can show some pictures of some of our work, which was just on Sunday morning. And it was actually remarkably simple. What we did was we sprayed the graffiti with sort of anti-graffiti spray, eco-friendly anti-graffiti spray, actually, as it is.
I didn't know it was a thing.
A bit of scrubbing, and look, it just comes off. I mean, this stuff is not rocket science. A total lack of imagination, a total unwillingness to do anything about the sort of social decay that we're seeing in our cities and the country at the moment. A laziness, a profound laziness and a lack of political will at the heart of the governance of London that means means that people are just like, oh, the washing machine's broken, we'll just live with this social decay. Well, no, you don't have to live with the social decay. You can come up with new ways to do things. You can give some people some sponges, some water and some graffiti spray and get that stuff off. It's not impossible. Pull your socks up, Sadiq. Do something about it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. Could Labour restore our NHS?
The government outlines a 10-year plan to get our National Health Service back on track, shifting focus, they say, to community care, digital service and prevention over treatment.
Well, hospital funding and staff salaries could be linked to patient satisfaction and ratings. But is this neighbourhood health approach just a cost-cutting measure?
The Supreme Court delivers a major victory for President Trump by curbing the power of federal judges.
EU airport strikes leave British travellers stranded as EasyJet flights between Bristol and Spain are cancelled.
And billionaire Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez finally tie the knot in Venice in front of a star-studded guest list. We'll be live there.
Also, for our debate this morning, we're talking driverless cars. Do you like the idea? Would you feel safe in a driverless car? We'll talk about it later.
And fans are continuing to enjoy Glastonbury as Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts are expected to headline tonight.
Also, we're going to be catching up with our reporter Charlie Peters because today he's taking on the 13 Bridges Challenge to raise money for military veterans.
Thomas Tuchel will make the trip to Slovakia this evening to throw his support behind England's under-21s as they take on Germany in the Euro final. In tennis, Jack Draper and Emma Raducanu plot their path to glory at Wimbledon. And it's live football, but not as we know it. We'll take a look at the shake-up in the latest multi-billion-pound Premier League rights deal.
Another heatwave on the way for many of us, but it won't be hot everywhere during the next few days. Significant differences across the UK. Full details in the forecast coming up soon.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast. Good morning to you, and good morning to you, particularly if you're a gnome owner, because we were talking earlier in the papers about having a garden gnome in your front garden, or maybe even your back garden as well, brings down the value of your house.
Yes.
What?
Though it's neighbouring properties.
Yeah, and therefore there's nothing you can do about it.
No.
Gary says, we don't have gnomes in our back garden, but my wife Becky has covered our garden with mushrooms and toadstools. Am I losing money on my property?
Yes.
Well, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And Angela says, oh no, I must be naff, because I am the proud owner of a very old gnome called Walter.
I think if you like them, why not?
Absolutely.
And how big they are as well.
I don't know.
They're usually always endlessly fishing, aren't they, as well, in ponds and things like that.
We did see a shop, I can't think where it was now, where they were selling... they had a lot of gnomes, but they were just one colour, like block colour, but they had them in, like, every colour of the rainbow sort of thing. But so maybe it's a trend. Maybe they are coming back.
They're coming back. Actually, Don has just got in touch and said, I wouldn't touch a house if there was a trampoline in the neighbour's garden. Interesting, isn't it? Just shows you we all have our little prejudices.
In case one of the kids bounces over, maybe.
Yeah. You know you've got noisy neighbours then or something.
12 grand off your property seems a lot, though.
It does. It does.
Maybe just ask your neighbours if they'll put their gnomes away for a period of time.
I don't think they would take well to that. If they love their gnomes, they wouldn't react well to that. But if you've got a pet hate, and you don't have to give away your neighbour's name or anything like that.
No, best not.
But if you saw a big trampoline in the garden next door, would you think, oh no, I don't know whether I want to live next door to them?
I've never had dodgy neighbours, I've never had anything to worry about. Have you?
I've had noisy neighbours.
When I lived in a flat. Once.
Yeah, me too. It's when I lived in a flat. There was a rock group moved in downstairs, and they played music all through the night, really loud.
And did they go anywhere? Any famous?
No, definitely not, no. Well, they did too much time staying in their flat and listening to loud music instead of making it, I suppose.
I probably can't repeat my neighbour's story.
Oh, really?
I woke up in the middle of the night to... they lived above me, to what on earth is that sound? And they were weeing out of their bedroom window down past my window.
Oh, no, that's not very neighbourly.
Waterfall fountain.
That was just... I mean...
What do you do about it?
I did complain.
Yeah.
And they apologised and said they were drunk.
Ah.
But even so...
Yeah, no, I mean...
Anyway, it's enough for this time of morning. You don't have to know that.
I don't know what took us there, really.
Yes, anyway, that was a long time ago. It's probably you. I knew you from somewhere. Right, our main news this morning, a major NHS overhaul. Hospital funding will become dependent on patient ratings.
It will mean that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied patients are with their treatments.
Well, apparently this could all cut waiting lists, and it's all part of the Prime Minister's 10-year plan to restore the NHS.
The head of the NHS, Sir Jim Mackey, has welcomed the move because he claims the health service views patients as an inconvenience.
It's a worrying statement to make, isn't it? It all follows, of course, the government's U-turn on welfare following the backlash from backbench Labour MPs. We'll find out if that move has worked for the government with that vote on Tuesday.
Joining us now, political commentator Peter Barnes. Can you explain how this is meant to work?
Well, I wish I could, but as per usual, this is the Labour Party and this is just throw money at the problem and a little bit more window dressing. Welcome to Yelp for hospitals. That's what this is. It is absolutely ridiculous. The idea that clinical outcomes are akin to satisfaction is just nonsense, because you could have the best outcomes, but you might not like the food and therefore your hospital gets a terrible rating. It is preposterous because it does not tackle the core problems, which is the workforce shortage, infrastructure is outdated and crumbling, and resource allocation. This is just typical of this Labour government, who have no idea how to actually fix a problem.
What worries me about this is salaries.
Yes.
To be perfectly honest, because I can understand some arguments saying you'll get more resources if you perform better.
Yes.
I can understand that. But if salaries are affected, then you're not going to get people who are any good wanting to work in hospitals where you would earn less.
Oh, yes, definitely. But you also have the problem of people who do like the NHS, who we know love our NHS and everything, who will give a higher rating because of that. So they might have had it might be a terrible hospital, but they love nurses and doctors and they don't want to see them go short of money. So there is a huge problem here. It's also, when it comes to these surveys, there's a problem of survey fatigue. So in other words, when you've just come out of hospital, the last thing you really want is a questionnaire and this really long document. We don't really know the details of this. Yet again, this government is a little short on the details. But what's fascinating is that we're seeing the kind of modernising of the NHS again. I mean, how much more modernising do we need when digital services? It's just ridiculous.
Well, the digital thing, it's inevitable. It's got to happen. It's just we can't seem to make it work.
Yeah, but
the idea of preventative medicine, now that isn't what the NHS was set up for, but actually could save us money in the long term.
Yes.
But that requires a fundamental shift.
Yes, it does. And also, when you hear preventative, also read nanny state. That is what they mean. They're going to get more control over what supermarkets, for example, can sell and what they can promote, and you're going to get more clamping down on junk food adverts and all this kind of stuff, which is shown not really to have that major impact. Though I will have to admit, this government has, when it comes to healthcare, always targeted things at its root cause. So I look at the controversy over getting teachers to get kids to brush their teeth. That was actually to save the NHS money. It was nothing really to do with education. It was about kind of making sure that kids who were between the ages of 6 and 13 didn't go into hospitals for teeth-related problems.
Because that was happening.
Because that was happening to a high degree. So I don't disagree with the idea of preventative medicine. I just don't like the idea of a very large, bloated, bureaucratic organisation like the NHS doing it, because they're not very good at it.
This announcement, then, wrapped up as it is, as though it's some great scheme that's going to be 10 years long, by the way. Yeah. Is this a sign that Wes Streeting has suddenly found that his job is much more difficult than he even thought, and that he's going to need so much more money that prevention, community care, which makes the hairs on the back of my neck bristle.
He's about to join the long list of health secretaries to realise that he can't fix the NHS. He talks a very good game, then backtracks very quickly. This is my big problem with Wes Streeting, is you don't know what he believes one day to the next, and he's very easily swayed by certain elements of the Labour family, as they call it. I mean, let's look at... I've always said that actually to save the NHS, you save it from its friends more than its enemies. I mean, let's look at medical trade unions, for example. They cost the NHS a fortune when they strike. I mean, look at 2024, roughly £1.75 billion was spent covering the strikes. Then you've got to look at these massive bumper pay rises, where I think it's junior doctors, 210 million quid is going on back pay. These are astronomical amounts of money. And yet again, it's not really fixing the core problems. So we just keep throwing money at the black hole.
But the issue is, of course, that, I mean, traditionally, it might be different if there was a Reform government, because they seem to sort of say something and just get on with it. But certainly for the Tories, extremely difficult for them to reform the NHS in fundamental ways, and the talk always was, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to have to be the Labour Party.
Yeah, and do you know what? I completely agree. I mean, like you said, it's been common thought amongst politicos for some time. But then there was a moment of shining hope when they scrapped NHS England, and then actually, when you looked at the detail, all they did was reallocate people. They didn't actually they got rid of the title and the quango, but they just moved people around. This is part of the problem, is that they announce something, but just under the surface, the details of it are either not there or it's not what it's made out to be. And this is where you get the trust decline and the institutional decline and all the catastrophes that we find ourselves in, is because detail is just lacking, or more likely, Keir Starmer just gets up and lies to people.
He doesn't read the room very well either at the moment. His popularity ratings are at an all-time low for any Prime Minister, and then announces something to sort of... It feels as though they're constantly just trying to cover up the problem.
The government's ability to impact is non-existent. They are reacting to everything because they have control of nothing. I mean, if we look at this welfare reform bill, the government's authority is gone. Keir Starmer's premiership is over because the backbenchers have now taken control of the government, because all they have to do every single time is get enough of them, and they've shown that Keir Starmer will capitulate. What's interesting, when Vicky Foxcroft, the whip, resigned the other week, Number 10 went very heavy with stick. They started threatening MPs very openly, saying that you rebel against us, you're out in the cold. And the majority of MPs went, and watch us. This is the reality. Number 10 made an absolute mess of this. But they tried the carrot method, and now it's looking like Diane Abbott, for example, is running the show now. You know, she's leading many of these reforms. She's openly said that the rebels are not going to back down until the bill is scrapped. Not, tinkered at the edges, scrapped. And,
so this throws... I mean, look, whether you agree with the changes or not, if it is scrapped, it's £5 billion that the Chancellor thought she had in her pocket, which then wouldn't be there.
Yeah, the fiscal headroom was narrow enough as it was anyway, and yet now it's looking likely that tax rises are an inevitability. Where they're going to get the money from, I don't really know, because we're taxed to within, very uncomfortable places. But, businesses can no longer operate. I think even before the budget, 1,600 directors closed down the businesses because of the budget, and they hadn't even come out yet. We're seeing the jobless rate is going through the roof. The companies aren't hiring, and they're blaming the government for it. It's not like other external factors. It's not Trump's tariffs. It is the government's policies. The government is purposely doing things that is harming the economy, and it's got to stop.
But they say they're aiming for growth. Their entire economic plan is based on the economy growing.
I don't think they understand what the word means, if I'm being brutally honest, because where is it? The only growth this government has ever got is actually in spite of them and not because of them. If you look at the last quarter, there was a little bit of growth, and that was because of the tariffs and everybody getting the big purchases in before the tariffs hit. It had nothing to do with Rachel Reeves. She is completely irrelevant, and everything she does do just turns to disaster.
But as Stephen was saying earlier as well, every time they say anything, they always blame the last 14 years of Tory rule, but they had 14 years in opposition to prepare for this.
100%, and this is why I always say that we need as equal scrutiny on opposition parties as we do on the government. But what's very interesting is look how they keep bringing up Liz Truss. It was the Truss economics. They never talk about Rishi, because Rishi had a lower level of inflation. The economy was getting back on the rise. They did not inherit an economic mess. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't brilliant, but they have to keep harking back to Liz Truss era for the economic chaos, because they know for a fact, as anybody with a basic understanding of economics will see, an upward trend under Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives towards the end. Don't get me wrong, they were a catastrophe in their own right, but towards the end, the government now did not inherit the mess that they are claiming. This 22 billion black hole, non-existent. No one can find it.
No. No, doesn't stop them talking about it.
Exactly.
No. Peter, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, on the other side of the water, President Donald Trump has hailed the Supreme Court's decision to curb injunctions on plans to ban birthright citizenship.
This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today.
Well, the decision means anyone born in the US to illegal immigrants will no longer automatically get citizenship.
Now, while the White House has praised the ruling as a significant win for the Constitution, there are now concerns that it will expand the president's power.
Let's talk to US political analyst Eric Ham. Eric, good morning to you. Does this significantly impact what the president can do, what any president will be able to do?
It absolutely does. And what this does, quite frankly, is it basically clears the lane for President Donald Trump to continue this plan to eliminate birthright citizenship. And we have to be clear about something. Birthright citizenship is enshrined in the Constitution. It is the 14th Amendment. It is an amendment that has been around for more than 160 years. It basically states that anyone born or naturalized in the United States is, in fact, a citizen of the United States and is assigned all the protections under due process in the United States. What this order from the Supreme Court does, however, it doesn't specifically attack birthright citizenship or say that Donald Trump can eliminate birthright citizenship. What it does is it creates a law, an order that stipulates that lower courts cannot implement national injunctions against orders levied by the president. And so what this does is it means that now the president has carte blanche to do what he chooses, what he wants. And again, what we are seeing here is the Supreme Court continues to operate not as an independent branch of government that is a check on the powers of the other two branches, but is now wholly co-opted by the White House.
And the Supreme Court is mostly made up, I think almost entirely made up, of Republican appointees. Isn't that true?
It's made up of a majority of conservative justices who were appointed by conservative presidents. Of course, 3 of the 6 were appointed by President Donald Trump.
Right. So where does this leave decisions that can be challenged? Because presumably by this, you might not be able to overturn a sort of a national ruling, if you like, but it still means individuals can bring cases if they feel they've been treated unfairly and have their own individual cases changed, can they?
That's true. That's exactly what it means. But however, when you look at the 14th Amendment, it says they are now afforded equal protection under the law, which means you are a citizen in Ohio just as much as you are a citizen in Louisiana, just as much as you are a citizen of North Dakota. What this ruling by the court today suggests is that now it's open to interpretation based on where you are. And so one jurisdiction may actually afford you citizenship, whereas another jurisdiction may actually question and actually have or may signal that you can in fact be deported. And so now what we're seeing here is there is no uniform law in the United States. It's now we're back to basically pre-1866 when the 14th Amendment was passed, where now it's up to individual states to determine this. And now what that does is it puts the law, which is sacrosanct to American democracy, in jeopardy.
And how is all this going down with the general population? What are people saying about it? Or is it actually sort of too complicated for people to really be interested?
No, I think millions of people are watching this with dread and fear, because what we are seeing now is, once again, we have a court that is continuing to give ultimate authority and power to the executive branch. There are no checks and balances anymore. And now everyone's citizenship, quite frankly, can be questioned based on what we saw through the interpretation of the courts. It is now a slippery slope that we're seeing play out.
But what I don't understand is you say everyone has this constitutional right, but the whole point of the Supreme Court, as I understand it, is to make sure the Constitution is being implemented. So if the Supreme Court has decided this works, then that is the Constitution in effect, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. The Constitution is a living, breathing document. That's how we interpret the Constitution. You cannot take an amendment of the Constitution and say, okay, we're going to eliminate this amendment of the Constitution. That's what the courts did today. And so, no, the courts cannot basically say, well, we're going to wipe out the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and basically make it what the president wants it to be. The president has to adhere to the laws that were enshrined in the Constitution, not let's get rid of them so the president can do what he wants to do. That's what happened today. And that's why what we're seeing here is that American democracy, which is basically built on the bedrock of the law itself, is now under attack. And so that is why we're now seeing democracy, I think, in the death throes.
OK. Eric Ham, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I think, because we have two guests with two very different views.
Very, very different views.
On that one. But I said, my understanding is the point of the Supreme Court is that they interpret the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's what they do when it's being questioned.
Yes.
They say, well, actually, no, this is how it should be interpreted. And they've said Trump's right on this one.
Yeah, he certainly gets things done, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, it's with astonishing speed. There you go.
Yeah, whether you agree with him or not, he says it and then does it.
Yeah.
So,
which is unusual for a politician.
Yeah, so, well, he's not a politician, is he?
No, maybe that's the whole thing.
That's the
interesting.
thing.
Give us your thoughts, please do. But until then, let's ponder the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere, it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now, that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales, turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and you could win £54,321 tax-free pounds. Here's how.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, would you get into a driverless car? Depends, doesn't it, really? We'd like a bit of proof that they're safe, but we'll be debating that next.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 7:28 now. Is the future of driving just around the corner.
Elon Musk, yes, him, he claims that Tesla has delivered its first car that's fully autonomous in what's being described as a groundbreaking leap in electric vehicle technology.
Yes, the question is, would you get in one? Would you actually trust it? Let's talk to Senior Lecturer in Inequality, Dr. Lisa McKenzie, and motoring journalist Steve Fowler. Good to see you both this morning. Steve, we knew it was coming. Are they really all they're cracked up to be?
Well, I've driven or been driven in full self-driving cars in the US, where it is perfectly legal in a Tesla. And I have to say it works. And with full self-driving, the driver still has to be in the driver's seat. You can take your hands off the wheel and the camera is monitoring you. It's not quite as easy as what you're seeing with no driver in there. But I do trust these cars to look after us, and I'm afraid to say that in the future, a driverless car or a computer is going to be a better driver than you or I, which is a shameful thing to say. It's going to mean fewer accidents. There will be teething problems. There always is with new technology, but there will be fewer accidents, and driverless cars will be better drivers than the rest of us.
OK, Lisa, so if they've gone through their teething problems and we're all accepting them, will the world be a better place with a computer driving than a human?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's that old, idea that, technology moves forward and it probably moves much forward quickly than our idea of ethics. And I think that's one of the things that probably we've not talked about is just because we can have driverless cars, what are the other consequences of that? About 10 years ago, I did some research with London Cabbies, and they were, even 10 years ago, were talking about driverless cars and the consequences if they were put in London. 10 years ago, the black cabbies really believed that some of the cycle lanes would be used for some sort of driverless car, even if it was just for deliveries. And one of the things that they were talking about then was sort of safety, also jobs. How would these things affect jobs? How would it affect the city? The sort of life of people walking around. So I think when we're talking about something like this, any new technology that comes into our cities, we have really got to think about the wider implications, because there are going to be them.
Well, yeah, I mean, Steve, that's a fair point, isn't it? I mean, even if you just look at taxi drivers, lorry drivers, delivery drivers, I mean, they could all find themselves out of work if this technology gets fully implemented.
You're absolutely right, and we're living in a world where everybody's concerned about AI and whether it's going to mean we're all going to be jobless. Who knows? We may even have AI presenters at some stage. I hope not, but it may happen. But there are other jobs to be made. I mean, the government, if you believe what the government says, there's potentially 38,000 jobs that can be created as a result of this industry, in the tech industries, for example. So yes, it kind of ebbs and flows. Jobs come in one place, you might lose jobs in other places.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa, don't you think it's a bit odd in a way that we are so worried about AI, driving our cars for us? When you get into a taxi nowadays, you have no idea how good the driver is, do you? So we put our lives in somebody else's hands. Then, when we get into a taxi,
yeah, I think what's happened over the last 10 years is technology's really moved quickly, very quickly, probably much faster than society has to cope with it. So if you look at sort of Uber, the concept of Uber, we get into a car, we don't know who it is, it comes to meet us, it knows where we're going. That's a very relatively new concept. If you think about, the old taxi cab, where, you get in and you tell them and somebody had done the knowledge and, it was a very skilled job. So I think it's just it's part of a quick moving society, because technology is really moving us along very quickly, and probably much more quickly than we have to think about the consequences or the ethics of that movement. And I think driverless cars is definitely going to be one of those things that changes what we do, how we think, and how we move around a city really quickly. But, you know, as yet, we don't know what the consequences of that are going to be.
But we are going to have a bit of time, Steve, aren't we? Because, I mean, even if they were fully brought online over here, it's getting legislation through, which will take a while here, but also, of course, everyone being able to afford one. So it's not going to happen in the next 5-10 years, is it?
It's a little bit away, yes. I think the world that we live in, you'll be surprised how quickly the technology will move these days. I think the technology will probably be ready before the law lets us drive driverless cars. I think we have to think about how we're going to own these vehicles as well. Yes, we may want to have our own cars, but the whole cityscape may well change. You know, the cars may not be on the road as much because nobody's driving around when they don't need to. Taxis, for example, drive around looking for fares. Our own car might not even live with us. It might live in a car hotel a little way away, and it knows through AI when we need the car, what time we need the car, or if we need to call it via our app, and it turns up, it's outside our front door when we need it. So it doesn't sit on the street or the driveway outside of us. And the other thing that people need to be aware of, we're all very happy to go on holiday. And as I understand it with planes, something like 15 seconds after takeoff, and even they land autonomously. You know, yes, there's a couple of people up in the cockpit we can trust to take over, but we're very happy to be on a plane that's driving autonomously. And some people are a lot worried about cars that drive autonomously.
Yeah. All right. Steve Fowler, Lisa McKenzie, we've got to leave it there, but really good to talk to you.
And how the insurance industry is going to address the whole matter. I mean, if you do knock into something or someone, God forbid, in a driverless car, whose fault is it?
Well, that's a whole other question.
It really is.
I quite like the idea of it, though.
I like but you like driving?
I do like driving, but there've been times when it'd be nice to have less.
You just have an app on your phone, say, right, bring my car around, and the car just delivers itself. That'd be nice.
Nice. Well, anyway. Right, still to come, we've got the sport with Aidan. He's going to deliver himself here in about 3 minutes. We'll see you then.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Good afternoon, Britain. A cheerful lollipop man's signature high fives have been stopped in their tracks.
Oh dear. Well, Neil Cotton, believed by local children... sorry. I'll start that all over again. This is a chap called Neil Cotton, and he's beloved by local kids in Howden, East Yorkshire. And he's been told by the council to stop the friendly high-fiving gesture, all in the name of health and safety.
But many parents and motorists are calling it nonsense. No surprises there. So apparently this chap, 57 years old, he spent the last 2 years brightening up the school run in the East Yorkshire town of Howden. There he is, looks like a nice guy, doesn't he? He has a cheerful attitude. He has his signature high fives. The children love it, the parents love it, he loves it. But no, the council says, get on with your job and stop the high fives.
This is the one area of employment where the council's trying to chivvy people on and get them to work harder rather than less hard. But I mean, what have we done in this country where we've sort of abandoned our sense of whimsy? I think adding a sense of whimsy to all jobs, I think, is a fundamental productivity measure, actually. I think if you're enjoying what you're doing, you're going to be doing it better. People are going to go into school or away from school with a smile on their face. What a joyful thing in a town in Yorkshire. I mean, amazing, brilliant. And yet, no, of course, the clipboards have to come out and the dour library monitor style individuals. I bet they're all library monitors at school. They've just got to tell people that they can't have fun.
Yeah, so the children have to be shooed along. They can't be distracted by such frivolities as a high five.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in,
This is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Right, Aidan's here with all the sports, 7:38 morning.
Good morning to you both.
Should we talk about the England under-21s?
Yeah, big game tonight, Stephen, against the old enemy, Germany, in Slovakia. And I just wonder whether Thomas Tuchel has decided to make a quick dash over there tonight to support the underlings, if you like, because he's noticed that Germany are doing the same with their manager. Julian Nagelsmann is going over there to follow them. So I suppose he wants to make sure he's on an even footing with them. But not one for him, because we're playing against the country of Thomas Tuchel's birth, of course. But listen, they've had a great journey. They didn't look great in the group stages. They lost to Germany, who they played tonight again in the final, obviously. But they got through Spain in the quarterfinals, Netherlands as well in the semis. And the key to their progress, Anne, I think, has been the players have been very relaxed where they are. I always remember the 2010 World Cup. Fabio Capello was the England manager of the first team, and he kept the players cooped up in this specially designed camp away from Bloemfontein, away from Pretoria or Rustenburg, in fact, where they were based. They didn't socialise with anybody outside of the camp. They had to sleep a certain number of hours in a day. There were messages coming from players, we're locked up in here, we feel like prisoners. But this week, the England players, the under-21s, have been getting out to Wagamamas and having chicken firecrackers.
I love a Wagamamas.
Chicken katsu curry. I mean, I'm sure you could have given them a couple of your vouchers, couldn't you, that you get on the back of the car parking tickets for 20% off. But they've been going out and they've been encouraged to go out and meet people. They've been sightseeing. They've been getting on scooters
good on them.
and going around town. And they look very relaxed. And if they win tonight, that's a massive staging post ahead of next year's World Cup, because I would fancy that some of these players might be late entrants for the World Cup squad next year. So we wish them all the very best of luck this season.
Yeah, no, it's good to keep the youngsters, motivated, isn't it?
Yes.
What about these new broadcasting rules for the Premier League? Half-time interviews with players and managers. Haven't they got better things to be doing, like assessing where they are and how to regroup? And
well, look, OK, let me give you a list of what could be considered. It's not been ratified yet by the Premier League, but we're going to see interviews with substitutes when they come off the pitch. So, I mean, interview with a player who's been substituted. I mean, that's the last player I want to be interviewing, because he's really annoyed.
Miserable,
because he's been taken off. I mean,
so you're just going to get a load of complaints.
I mean, he might be injured. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a cooling off period of a minute or so, and you're going to be allowed to speak to the substitute. Now, this has come from... There's a two-tiered rights system. There's the local rights, which go to Sky and TNT, but then the further billions come from overseas rights. I think this dynamic, or this suggestion, has come from them, because that's how they cover NFL. That's how they cover basketball. That's how they cover the hockey. They're used to going into the players and invading their privacy and speaking to them left, right and centre.
Yeah, I mean, here
that's
it says
what we're going to see.
Broadcasts from the dressing room.
Yes. So there's going to be a period where you can...
Calm yourself, Anne.
Tuning in. I just can't think of anything more intrusive than you're all, you're in the middle of a match.
I know, exactly. Well, also, there's going to be a grace period where the coaches can talk tactics. But after that, there's going to be a camera in the dressing room. Now, I wonder if all these documentaries we've seen in the last 5 years or so have been preparing us for this. But I do think it's come from the overseas element of the broadcast deal.
Is it about football or is it about television?
Well, they're interlinked, sadly. But I tell you what, there's going to be resistance from this from players.
Yeah, there will be, won't there?
Quick look at Wimbledon.
Yes, Jack Draper has a draw against. Let me see who's drawn against. Not somebody I've heard of. I must.
Sebastian Baez
of Argentina. Now the problem here, though, is because he's in outside of the draw, he could face Novak Djokovic in the quarter-final. It could be Sinner in the semi-final. It could be Alcaraz in the final. He could be looking at having to beat all three to win Wimbledon. Now, it's a tall order anyway. There's no saying that you can't beat those players. Of course there's not. In the next round, he could face a chap called Marin Cilic, who won the 2014 US Open, and Alexander Bublik, who beat him at Queen's last week. So, if he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it the hard way. But I was at Eastbourne this week. He wasn't there. A bit worried for tennis, Anne, I must admit. A little bit worried, because I think that... Well, I didn't see anybody under the age of about 94. That's the problem. And I just think we'll discuss it more next hour, but I do think tennis has an existential problem.
Right, OK. All right, Aidan, thank you. We'll discuss that later then. Before we have a look at the papers, let's have a look at the forecast for the European hotspots.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Right, so we see what's in the papers with Duncan Barks and Kevin Schofield at 7:47. Kevin, this is all the stuff about the NHS we've been talking about. It's our top story today. The one thing that gets me is the boss of the NHS says it sees patients as an inconvenience, which strikes me as the most remarkable thing to say.
It's astonishing, really. I mean, there's a bit in it as well where he talks about this 10-year plan that's been announced next week for the NHS will set out reforms to put the focus of the health service on the experience of patients. I mean, shouldn't that be fundamental already?
Well, you'd imagine.
But what also I find absolutely astonishing, and I think his comments will resonate with a lot of people. You know, if you phone up to try and get an appointment, and it's, as everyone knows, it's very, very difficult. But it's just people will complain about the NHS till they're blue in the face, or have bad experiences, family members will have bad experiences, but suggest that we change the way that it's funded or the way that it's run, and people just throw up their hands in horror and say,
There does need to be an attitude change, doesn't there? Because there's a story in today's Mirror where apparently 6 million hours have been kind of wasted, that's the term they use, at A&E, with people turning up with acne and blocked noses. And the piece in the Mirror is making the point, which is you can go to your chemist, and we have an excellent chemist, you go in there, just, this is what's wrong with me, and as long as it's not serious, they go, well, have this. You know, and I do think we need a shift in this country towards not having the default of, like, I'll just rock up at A&E. I mean, they talk in the 10-year plan, some of which has been leaked or revealed, about greater reliance on the NHS app. I mean, I use the app for medication. It's fantastic. You just say, I've run out, can I have some more, please? And then you rock up at your chemist 2 days later, and it's there.
Yeah.
So it's about getting people's attitude, I think, towards how they use the NHS to shift. But it's a big old task.
It is. No, you're right. It's, for a lot of people, the default is, I want to see face-to-face someone, but not a chemist. You're absolutely right. Our local chemist is really good as well. 9 times out of 10, you can go along there with some sort of ailment, as you say, as long as it's not serious. And they're experienced enough to say, well, actually...
even if it is sort of ends up being something more serious, they can then say, no, they can pass you on.
Absolutely.
I think chemists are far underrated.
They are. And I don't know why the NHS and the government doesn't promote that.
Yeah,
more.
It should be, because they don't want to costs. Duncan, in the Times, well, what a surprise. Rachel Reeves is likely to have to raise taxes to pay for the U-turn.
It's our beleaguered Chancellor, who I think it's fair to say has been quite battered over the last few months. And a lot of the narrative this morning is there have been some U-turns regarding policy announcements, and there's been some kickback, if you like, the latest being the changes to welfare and PIP payments and whatnot, and the potential rebellion by around 120 Labour MPs. And as we saw in the last 36 hours, the government just rowing back a little bit on that, but the money has got to come from somewhere.
But it would be a gigantic U-turn for her, wouldn't it?
It is. It is a gigantic U-turn.
I mean, in a list of gigantic U-turns that have just recently happened.
It's almost like there's a U-turn a day. They almost don't have the same impact. No. Because there's 3 in the last month. U-turns.
Which is staggering for a relatively new government, just a year into the job. So one of the reports today in the Times is saying that Rachel Reeves needs to find an additional £4.5 billion. You have 2 options, don't you? Either raise taxes or you borrow more money, or you cut something. But this government seems unable to effectively reduce
there was someone on TV talking about...
so you have the options here. Do you borrow more? Just put it into context. We pay £105 billion a year in interest alone just to service our UK debt. That's not paying it off. That is the interest.
Well, here we go. They won't do this, but a 1p increase in the basic rate of income tax would raise approximately £5.5 billion a year.
Yeah. But you're right, they won't do that.
They won't do it. No. But actually, that would be a sensible idea, because if they start doing death duties, wealth tax, all that stuff, that's when people start leaving the country. We've already lost 11,000 millionaires this year.
Yeah, well, the problem is she's boxed herself into a corner, because they said before the election, we won't put up income tax, we won't put up VAT, and we won't put up national insurance. Now, they've put up national insurance on employers, but not on employees. So that's off the table. And the other problem is the last budget raised taxes by £40 billion, and they say that was a one-off to fill the black hole that was left by the Conservative government, the last Conservative government. Therefore, it was a once-in-a-Parliament event. If she has to come back in October, literally 12 months later, and say, actually, you know what, sorry, we're going to have to put up tax again, people just aren't going to buy it.
It's just bad politics, though. You don't make these statements, do you? So you end up boxing yourself, as you say, Kevin, into a corner where you've actually got no wriggle room whatsoever. You said this 6 months ago, Chancellor, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the mathematics is interesting as well, because we've been talking up until now that they can do what they like because they have such a massive majority.
We assumed that, didn't we?
We all assumed that. But look at the revolution going on within the party at the moment. They actually are vulnerable mathematically.
They are, massively. And, I mean, mean, this time round, or rather this new government, last July, you have a lot of newbie Labour MPs as well, who came into government to be more progressive and make the world a better place, you know, and then to say to them, well, actually, we want you to vote for effectively reducing the welfare budget. A lot of them just going, I'm not in this game for that. So it's
interesting. Let's just, we've got a minute. Kevin, can we look at your future arrest, please, in the Sun? Because if you are ever caught singing Flower of Scotland at an English train station, you are in trouble.
Again, you mean?
Again.
So this is examples in the Sun of people being reported to the police for these so-called non-crime hate incidents, and one of them was some guy was singing Flower of Scotland at a railway station in England, and I've been in my head going through the lyrics of Flower of Scotland, and genuinely there is nothing, I don't think, offensive towards it.
But
Don't worry, I
was
won't
he
sing
singing
it.
it aggressively? Or something.
I mean, is that worth getting the police involved?
We don't know, but most people watching and listening this morning will just be going, really, is this the best use of police time? The answer has got to be no.
Yeah, there's a great quote and it said that you might as well send the police to Twickenham when Scotland are playing rugby there, when you've got thousands of Scottish fans.
Arrest them all.
Round them up.
Excellent. The world's gone mad.
Yes.
Duncan, Kevin, thanks very much indeed.
Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers. A cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland. Drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales. Turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Yeah, so I got the news on 4th of April, right in between GB Team Selection Series, which hurt even more because I was leading in the points. But all of a sudden, I get a phone call being told you're banned from attending any Pal UK premises, banned from speaking with your teammates or staff, which was the most brutal part of it, and suspended, or whatever word you want to use.
I think, though, Kurt, that, posting subscription-only saucy content online might get you in a little bit of trouble, or did it not cross your mind?
No, for sure. But I want to make it clear that I have tried things in the past. I've been living life on the edge so many years. We moved from Latvia in 2010, been living life on the edge since then, done everything from working freelance long into the long nights, working at the Amazon warehouse. I have seeked out other alternatives, but in December last year, I got to a point of realization where I thought, is it worth it, or can I find an alternative? And I knew of other GB athletes doing it. I didn't think it was going to cause outrage like this.
Yeah, because I was thinking, a nice chap like you, who's obviously very talented with your sport, you could make some money doing, like online fitness training or personal training and things like that don't involve, getting your kit off.
No, for sure. I've been making content for like 6-7 years now. Over 1,000 of the pieces of content have been inspirational, motivational. I've visited over 30 schools in the UK, going to the hardest parts of the UK, inspiring kids from underprivileged backgrounds to get into sport. I've tried that, but I don't know. I found that in this day and age, unless you are smart or find some little controversial thing you can hold on to, it's going to be hard to get attention and sponsorship.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Could Labour restore the NHS?
The government outlines a 10-year plan to get our National Health Service back on track, and they're shifting focus to community care, digital services and prevention over treatment.
Well, hospital funding and apparently staff salaries will be linked to patient satisfaction ratings. But is this neighbourhood health approach just a cost-cutting measure?
The Supreme Court delivers a major victory for President Trump by curbing the power of federal judges.
Our reporter Charlie Peters is taking on the 13 Bridges Challenge today to raise money for military veterans.
Well, happy Armed Forces Day, everyone. Yes, we'll be trekking 10 miles from East London to West, raising money for Armed Forces veterans today.
EU airport strikes leave British travellers stranded as EasyJet flights between Bristol and Spain are cancelled.
The billionaire Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez have finally tied the knot in Venice in front of a star-studded guest list, but it's upset the locals.
And fans are continuing to enjoy Glastonbury as Neil Young and the Chrome Hearts are expected to headline tonight.
Good morning. The draw for Wimbledon has been released, with Jack Draper and Emma Raducanu plotting their path to glory at the All England Club next week. And we'll find out why darts champion Luke Littler believes he can crack America.
Another heatwave on the way for many of us, but it won't be hot everywhere during the next few days. Significant differences across the UK. Full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, I know, Anne, you're not overly impressed with the Bezos wedding. You think it's too much?
Too much.
You pare it back a bit,
Yeah.
but you can pare it back too far.
Oh?
Oh, yeah, because there's a woman in Texas who pared it back a little bit too far, and as a result, she's behind bars.
Why? What happened?
Well, that's because she married her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah? Her ex-boyfriend?
But he wasn't there.
Explain.
So she pared back on the groom.
Oh.
So she
got married, but there was no groom.
So she managed... How you do this, I do not know. But she got a pastor to sign off on the wedding and then was able to file a certificate with the county clerk, which meant he was married. They were married.
But he was married without knowing?
But didn't know it.
Oh, that can't be legal.
And then the only... Well, I hope not. Anyway, so she's being done for stalking, amongst other things.
Yeah, very silly.
So she wanted to save a bit of money, didn't want to pay for the groom.
But you wanted to be married.
But she wanted to be married to him.
Yeah, but he didn't have to be there.
Quite pricey these days, weddings, aren't they? You can understand.
Turns out he thought the wedding was off. She apparently did not.
Oh, how
so
weird.
There you go. So
There's always weird people in the world.
He was sort of legally married without actually being there and saying anything.
So she's behind bars now.
She's behind bars.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a mistake doing that, really, wasn't it?
You should make the divorce easy, though, let's be honest.
Well, yes.
Anyway, should we have a look at something that isn't easy, which is overhauling the NHS?
Oh, yes.
We know it's a difficult one. Hospital funding, though, upon this new 10-year scheme, is going to become dependent on patient ratings.
Yes, it actually will mean, apparently, that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied their patients are.
And apparently this will cut waiting lists, but it is all part of the PM's 10-year plan to restore the NHS.
Which is optimistic, isn't it, really? 10-year plan?
Yeah.
Head of the NHS, Sir Jim Mackey, has welcomed the move because he has claimed that the NHS views patients as an inconvenience. Which is a very odd thing for the head of the NHS to say, even if he thinks it.
I think it's extraordinary. I think it's an extraordinary sort of admission to make. If you're the head of the NHS and you're aware of that, why weren't you doing something about it already? Political commentator John Oxley's here. Morning.
Good morning.
I'm sort of flabbergasted by the language in this, never mind the proposals.
Yes, it's very robust. So he's come in as new head of the NHS. But I think ultimately, he's reflecting a view that a lot of your viewers probably share when they've experienced the NHS, you know, that feeling that really they'd all be much happier if there weren't any patients getting in the way of them doing their jobs.
Yeah, but do you get that? I mean, I have to say, I don't get that from the frontline staff.
No, it's massively insulting, isn't it, to the doctors and nurses who do look after you, and some of them do it so well. Yeah, massively insulting.
Yes, but I think this is looking more at, you know, the NHS as an organisation. You know, is it approachable? Is it friendly? Is it getting you the results you need? And I think we all know people who found the only way to get the treatment they really need is to really sort of fight for it yourself, really push back on sometimes being fobbed off by administration, being told, oh, no, you've got to wait 9 months for that appointment. And I think there is a lot of frustration there. And you know, ultimately, the only way you fix these things is by being honest about it. And yes, you know, there is a risk if the head of the NHS comes out with these terms, but also, you know, I think sometimes you need that honesty if you're actually going to look at what is the problem here and how do we fix it.
But the interesting thing there, as you rightly say, a lot of it is down to administration, and yes, it is frustrating trying to get appointments and all the rest of it. But if it's the frontline staff that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, most of the heavy lifting, and most of them are fantastic people, but under this scheme, they'd actually have their money reduced if the administration side of things is leaving patients unsatisfied. It seems very
Which is only going to make something worse, surely.
Quite possibly. I mean, we don't know the full details of the scheme, but I think, you know, one of the things that hopefully this will encourage is an atmosphere where each group of staff is raising the other up and you're not being shunted between problems in administration and the frontline staff, and also where best practices spread quite quickly because there's a real incentive. You know, the man who's taken over used to run Northumbria, which was the best NHS trust in the country, the best rated, and whatever was going right there obviously hasn't filtered through to a lot of the rest of them that score very, very poorly. So I think one of the things this is going to encourage is for staff to look around and say, well, actually, you know, over 2 towns over, they're getting all these bonuses because things are going right. Why on earth aren't we doing that here? And to sort of shake things out locally as well.
Gosh, that's awfully optimistic, isn't it? I mean, somebody has just emailed in and said, what kind of people would produce a 10-year plan when they've only got 4 years to go to the next general election? And that's true, isn't it? I mean, a 10-year plan, who's that going to impress? Because everybody regards this... No, they don't, not everybody. But a lot of people regard this Parliament as, limited, time-limited.
Yes. And it is somewhat optimistic. But also, you know, you have to recognise that an organisation like the NHS is absolutely huge. It takes a lot of time to get anything done, particularly big structural organisational things. So it's quite realistic to think this isn't a thing you can rush through in 2 or 3 years. And really, that's often the worst thing you can do, because it becomes a very superficial thing that costs 40% of the money of changing it, but delivers none of the results. And sometimes you have to say, look, whoever takes over, here's a plan that we have in place. We've done these things, and it looks like it's working. And actually, don't you want to take the benefit for that? So sometimes you do have to look long-term, whether you think you're going to be there or not.
Patient satisfaction, though, as a tester for all of this, is not a very good measure, is it? Because patients can be dissatisfied with service if they don't get what they want. Maybe it's not deliverable to get what you want. I mean, we as patients are very demanding, and we don't always get the results that we want. That's the nature of things. Is that the way we should be judging the service we've received?
I think it's one of the things that we should be looking at, and I don't think these proposals are going to say it's going to be the only determinant. You know, we look at health outcomes, we look at financial efficiency, because, as you say, you know, there will always be people who want more than the service can stretch to. But I think it is important to look at and are people happy with it? And you look at some of the scandals recently. You know, we were talking earlier in the week about maternity care, where lots of things went wrong, and a lot of people felt not only had their treatment gone wrong, they'd been fobbed off, they hadn't had the proper explanation, and it got to a real head where it had affected hundreds of families. And I think that sort of thing you do have to be aware of, that not just are you letting people down medically, but they don't have a sense that the system's working for them.
I suppose it would never happen, but time and again you talk to people who say, why isn't the NHS a department of government that is actually run by cross-party, you know, like a war cabinet, you know, the people actually just go, because you have to take a long, because you have to take a long-term view with anything to do with the NHS, don't you?
Yes, I mean, it's one of the biggest employers in the world. It's, you know, I think someone was saying in one of these articles, its turnover is basically the same size of the GDP of Portugal. It's a huge, huge organisation, and you know, huge organisations are very hard to change, and it does take time. And I think, you know, it'd be interesting to see when these plans are fully developed, how the other parties look at them, because it might be something where, you know, a sensible opposition goes, it isn't exactly the way we're doing it. We would do it, but it's pushing in the right direction, so we will see it through if we end up in power in 3 or 4 years' time.
OK, John, thank you very much indeed. I'm not convinced by patients having the sort of say in this. I mean, I think partly because people like to complain, but they don't like to praise, and so it's going to end up a bit lopsided. But also, it's the idea that you don't... I mean, I've got an issue with, bizarrely, with a finger at the moment, which is excruciatingly painful, and they cannot find out what's wrong with it.
But they're trying.
They've tried, but they've gone, nothing, we can't see anything. But it's still extremely painful. And so what? So I feel very dissatisfied, because I've got no benefit, I've got no relief. But that's not... It's not actually the NHS doing anything wrong.
And I've noticed as well, when I was moving house and I looked up the local health centre, and there were lists and lists of complaints, and they were from just about 2 or 3 people who were winding each other up. And it made it sound as though the practice was really not very good at all. When you actually spoke to real people in the village, they said it was, and it has proved to be.
So maybe it's problematic. Anyway, let us know what you think. In the meantime, we're going to turn our attention to doing good, and quite right too, with Charlie Peters, who's a very busy man, who's taking on what's called the 3 bridges...
No, 13, I think.
13 bridges. So we better not outdo you.
Yeah, just 3 is nothing.
All right, Charlie, tell us what you're doing, what it's about, who's it for.
Well, good morning, Stephen and Anne. This is the 13 Bridges Challenge. It's a 10-mile trek from East London to the west, raising money for Armed Forces veterans, organised by SAFA, the Armed Forces charity. It's been going for 10 years now, some 1,200 taking part, crossing all those iconic bridges across London, all the way down to Fulham. We've just seen some people set off just a moment ago. As I said, 1,200 taking part, and I'm with a couple of those people now this morning. And it's Sir Simon Bolam, the National Chair of SAFA. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
How important is this event for you?
Oh, this is fantastic. 1,200 people giving up their own time to walk for SAFA, to raise money for the Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen and Families Association. Fantastic charity, 2,000 volunteers looking after service people, veterans and their families. Those people that have found themselves in difficult circumstances need our help, and we help them to be not alone and supported.
And so Simon, an extensive military career for yourself, obviously, ending in procurement, but 35 years in the engineers as well. How much has SAFA supported and other armed forces charities supported your personnel throughout that time?
Well, 100%, Charlie. We've got a SAFA presence on all RAF bases, but we are truly a tri-service charity. So whatever colour of uniform, whether you're a veteran in service, SAFA is there to help those that find themselves in difficulty and are alone.
Brilliant. So Simon, thank you so much. Another guest that I can bring you this morning is Florence King, the Lady Mayoress of the City of London, a supporter of SAFA, and as you can see, a reservist, a Lance Bombardier in the British Army. Florence, how important is this event for you?
Personally, very important. Supporting SAFA is such a great thing to do, great privilege, and today is very important for them because it's a wonderful day to get engaged with the public and raising a lot of money.
And I imagine you won't be taking part in this trek in your very smart number 2 uniform, but supporting all those getting involved today, of course.
Absolutely. Armed Forces Day, I have a few more appointments in order to support the Armed Forces.
Florence, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there you go, Stephen and Anne. Lots of people taking part today. As you can see, some people setting off just now. I'm raising money myself for Armed Forces charity, SAFA and other people getting involved today. Hope you can get a QR code on your screen now. Hoping to raise some money for all the excellent personnel who do so much for us. And of course, those veterans who've worked hard, who served hard, and now need a bit of extra support. So join me on the walk. I'll be there for the next few hours, taking part in this trek, joining plenty of excellent guests throughout. See you soon.
Charlie,
he's
yeah,
off.
before-
He's off.
He's off. I was going to
On
say.
he goes.
Charlie, can you? No, he's
gone.
too busy.
He's gone.
I was going to say congratulations because I haven't seen him since the Trick Awards do.
Yeah, he did very well.
He did very well. Really, really well. Congratulations to him.
I think it was the speech of the ceremony, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Because he focused on, I mean, he won, and that's great, and it's great for him. But what he did was he put the focus entirely on the victims of the grooming
rape
gangs.
Yeah.
And that was absolutely right, spot on.
his
And there he
reporting
is
on it.
running for SAFA today.
I know, he's a hero.
I wanted to get away from our producer, Will, who's also down there, because they're both reservists. And so he was there, probably holding the camera, actually.
Yes, he probably was.
So we should have had away from Will as well. SAFA's a great charity because it's not just veterans they support. Well, there's the route that they're doing. But they don't just support veterans, they also support the families of those killed in action.
Yeah.
And they do some great work with that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It is. Well done, everybody.
Right, shall we see what the weather's going to be like today? I think it's going to be a bit muggy, I seem to gather.
Muggy is the word at the moment, yeah. Let's hope the sun comes out at some point.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now, that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales. Turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Travel chaos, don't you just love it, especially at this time of the year when you want to get away?
Oh, especially at the airport. There's nothing worse than hanging around at an airport waiting to find out what on earth's going on.
No, we're going to be talking about that. Still to come.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Travel chaos now. Now, many people, sorry, but that's what it's about.
Yes.
Many people I know are going to be jetting off on their summer holidays and are at this moment probably. And it's meant to be a lovely idea and you look forward to your holiday, but you could find it pretty stressful. I had it coming back from Cyprus just 2 days ago. Everything was at Gatwick. They closed one runway at Gatwick. We weren't even given clearance to take off, because the pilot explained, unless you're given a window for landing,
you can't take off.
You can't take off. So we weren't even given clearance to take off at first. We had to wait for ages and ages. Then when we got to Gatwick, and the pilot came on and he said, you might have noticed we're going round in circles. We'll be doing that for about another half hour at least, because we hadn't got clearance to land.
Mad.
And then And the M25 was closed.
Oh, dear.
Both directions.
Oh, dear. That wasn't the
Because by
airline's
then it was
fault.
2:15 in the morning. That wasn't the airline's fault. It just shows that it really puts you in a mood.
Oh, it does. It does. It ruins the start or the end of your holiday. Well, one person familiar with all the madness is former check-in supervisor from the TV series Airline. Do you remember that? Jane Bolton. Let's have a look at her being no-nonsense in action.
Susie has tried to find a more sympathetic ear. Instead, she's found Jane Bolton.
I promise you, I had a really... Yeah, no, but obviously we can't fault you from a coffee shop, so big arrow there saying departure. You just have to keep following the arrow to departures. With all due respect, 138 passengers got on that flight this morning that haven't been here before either.
You're supposed to make it easy. It says easy.
It is easy if you get here on time before the check-in closes. I am going home tonight. I'm going to have about 50 fags in the car on the way home, and I'm going to have a nice hot bath, and then I'm going to have a bottle of red wine.
I'm having a fag.
Yeah, and a nice bottle of red wine. And
Don't blame her.
that made her really famous. Anyway, she joins us now. Jane, good morning.
Good morning. Can I just say, I don't smoke anymore.
Oh, good. Gave it up. But not the wine, I notice you haven't said.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Now, look, I mean, is there any way round travel chaos, or is it just something that... What would you recommend? I mean, do we just have to put up with it and zen out?
I think it's just a case of being organised. I mean, there's so many things that are out of your control, like you say. You know, the M25 is always a nightmare if you're using that motorway. I think the later your flight is, the more chance you have of a delay operationally, because the impact in the morning does have an impact on the afternoon flights, unless operationally the aircraft are changed. So I think it's just a case of, you know, for me, it's like I always said, it's easy if you get there on time. Give yourself plenty of time. It's much better to get there early, get rid of your bags. I mean, I'm one of those people, you know, as you saw on the programme, I can't stand too much hand baggage anyway. I like to get rid of everything and just enjoy my flight and just worry about collecting my bags at the other end. So it's just get rid of all your baggage, go through to departures. It doesn't matter then if there's a delay at departures, because obviously peak season is coming now. So that's going to be particularly busy everywhere you go. And then just get through to the other side and have a wander around duty-free in the shops and maybe a small glass of vino before you get on the flight, not too much, obviously. And then it is what it is. But like I say, it's just, for me, getting there organised, making sure your paperwork's organised, get everything done before you go, give yourself plenty of time, and then you are really at the mercy of the airport then in the airlines, aren't you? But at least you've done everything you can to make it as smooth as possible.
But I tell you what always irritates me, Jane, is, and it does get hugely frustrating if things are going wrong, of course it does, but it was never your fault. And it's, you know, it's never the fault of the people on the check-in or anything else, and yet you get it in the neck.
I think so. I think they say that travel's sort of up there with moving house, and I think because it's so out of your control and you don't know what's going on, take into that account that there are families that are travelling with children who are very excited about their holiday, and that creates obviously more stress for the parents. People don't like flying, you know, everything's completely out of control. So when things don't go right, the frustrations are taken out on those in front of them, which is normally the people at the airport, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, they always say, don't they, that there's absolutely no point in getting worked up about things you can't control. You just have to sort of, like I say, zen out or listen to an audio book or something like that. You've just got to take yourself off to a different place. Otherwise, you're letting things get to you that you can't do anything about.
Not really, but I think it's just natural human behaviour. I tell that myself on a daily basis at home with 3 kids. So.
Yeah. Do you? I mean,
I think it's natural.
You were known as being very, very no nonsense on the show. Has that changed now that you're out of the business? Has it calmed you down, just the fact you're not in that situation anymore?
I think so. I
or
think
would your kids disagree?
Yeah, my kids would probably certainly disagree, and they'd agree with you, Stephen, I'm sure. But I do think I have calmed down. I mean, I went from that into operations management and then training. So I think experience and being older does make you look at things completely differently. And I probably wouldn't get as rallied up as quickly. But as well, I think, you know, it was cut and edited perfectly. You know, I'd been with some of those people for a very long time, or some of the things, unfortunately, I said under my breath as I walked away, forgetting I had a mic on. So, but I think the butt stopped with me. By the time they came to me, they'd already been told the same thing probably 2 or 3 times by one of the agents on check-in, which was frustrating. So, yeah.
What are you up to now?
No.
What are you up to now? Because we're told you're doing a tour.
I am. I run my own cake business, but I've been doing quite a bit of social media work for EasyJet and a few other people, because it's all gone mad with social media and TikTok, which is bizarre because most of the people that follow me and watch me actually probably were tiny babies or not even born when it was out, so it's really, really weird. But yeah, somebody got in touch with me. I've got, I think it's about 12 dates booked in from September, going around the UK doing an audience with sort of a bit about more about me, but obviously quite a lot about the programme and funny anecdotes that happened at the time. And yeah, so that kicks off in September.
Oh, I hope you lose your rag. I hope you get a few awkward audience members and kick off. That'd be perfect. Jane, it's really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, so keep you cool.
That's all you can do.
And make sure you're there in plenty. You see, I'm bad for that.
And be organised. You just rehearse what you're going to put in the hold, if you're going to put stuff in. If you can afford to put a suitcase in the hold nowadays, and what's actually going to be with you. All sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I always think I've got it right, but there's always something you forget.
You always forget something every time.
Yeah, every single time. Why is that?
I don't know. Awful, isn't it?
Crazy.
Right, still to come, we've got Aidan with the sport, and throughout the rest of the show, we're going to be catching up with Charlie Peters and see how he's getting on his 13 Bridges charity walk.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Where Anna Riley, our intrepid reporter, is doing the toughest job in television right now, which is enjoying the sunshine. Anna.
Yes, Tom, it's definitely a tough gig for me today, I'll tell you. I'm on the Bridlington Fun Park ride here. This is the Zero Gravity ride. This fun park is, off we go. This fun park is right next to the sea. Oh, it goes quite quickly, I'll tell you. And people are out enjoying rides like this one. Off we go. It's a great boost for tourism, and we've been speaking to people here in Bridlington about what's so great about the sunshine. Let's have a listen.
We're on holiday. We've been here since last Friday, so we can't complain. It's been beautiful, and we're here till Monday, so we're really looking forward to the hot weather. As you can see, the sunburn.
It's lovely. It really is very nice. It's absolutely gorgeous. We deserve it, definitely.
It's good. We like the warm weather.
Yes, very nice. Loving it. Yes, like
it's warm enough.
Woo! Well, this ride is showing no signs of stopping, and neither is the sunshine. We're getting that heat wave at the weekend. Enjoy the weather and enjoy fun rides like this one. Get to Bridlington and get to the fun park.
Oh my gosh! Absolute bravo, Anna Riley. What an incredible piece of television. I hope they let you off at some point.
I thought they'd only do it once or twice. Bless her.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. our national institution. That's what people are calling him. Charlie Peters, GB News presenter, award-winning Charlie Peters. He's joining us now because he's taking on the 13 Bridges Challenge. It's all part of Armed Forces Day. There he is walking.
Along with our Will.
Oh, there's Will, yes. And a very iconic bridge behind you. Tell us what, where, and how are you doing?
Yes, we've just crossed Tower Bridge, as you can see, the iconic bridge behind us. So 1 down, 12 to go. Although on the 13 Bridges walk, one of the bridges is repeated to make sure you can get all the way and make that 10-mile journey. And as you said, yes, joined by Will Mayrick, breakfast producer, and also Royal Air Force reservist. Will is actually my senior in the reserves, and actually often at work as well. He's an officer and I'm a soldier, so whenever we're together in uniform, I have to salute him, which can get a little bit nervous. Will, how are you finding today so far?
Yeah, great. Perfect weather for it. I'm in the shorts, you know, making the most of it, and yeah, fantastic charity. So what could be better?
Absolutely, raising money for armed forces veterans and their families. So many charities we're supporting today. SAFA organising this event should have a QR code on the screen now as well. Joined here by so many veterans and also those who support them, because SAFA isn't just about armed forces personnel directly, it's all about supporting their families as well. So stay with us. Plenty more miles, plenty more bridges to come. HMS Belfast just behind us here as well. So, yep, Stephen and Anne, thank you very much for coming to us. There'll be plenty more to come in the next 2 hours as well. Speak to you soon.
All right, keep the pace up, boys.
And a lot of people are already in touch saying that QR code is doesn't quite work, apparently.
Oh.
So it's very, very easy, though, to support them because you just Google 13 Bridges Challenge and you get it.
Yeah.
Apparently, it opens up a load of adverts, but it doesn't actually open the page properly, apparently, that QR code. Maybe we can have a look at that.
We'll tweak.
Yeah.
We'll tweak. All right, let's talk to Aidan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we talk about Luke Littler? Because he wants to crack the States.
Well, look, darts has never been in that kind of sphere before, you know, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's kind of, you know, it branched out to the northern towns and was very strong in the south as well. Lots of people doubted whether it would even fill the Ali Pali, 3,200 people. Now, Luke Littler is at the US Masters. At the moment, he's been giving interviews, and there's a smaller arena within the Madison Square Garden, OK? Not arenas, including the Ali Pali, actually have a smaller hall and a bigger hall. And at the MSG, Madison Square Garden, they're using the smaller one this time. 5,500 people in there. They're going to fill that comfortably for this event. He's been speaking yesterday saying 19,500 would be the target in the bigger hall at Madison Square Garden. That's what someone like Mike Tyson would have got back in the day when he was fighting in there. And it's been filled out regularly for different events since then. But for darts to do it would be completely different. Don't forget, 19,500 is about 6 times the size of what they do at Ali Pali at the moment. So it's really a huge step. And the US audience are captivated by his progress. He's 18 years old. He's won the world title. He's won numerous other accolades and awards and tournaments throughout the year. Because of social media now, it throws it into a different arena because they're able to see all these things that he does. They see his age as well. I mean, apart from the fact that anything else, he looks a bit older than he actually is. They're probably a bit quizzical, actually, aren't they? He's actually 18.
But do you know what? Americans often look older than they are.
Yeah, true.
I don't know why that is genetically, but maybe
they're seeing the 9 dart finishes.
Yeah.
And all that they love it. They love his celebrations, all the razzmatazz that goes with it. And I think, given the trajectory of darts' progress in the last 2 or 3 years, it stands to reason that they would go to the States.
I mean, the sheer fact that he and darts are making front pages
in the summer as well. A lot of Christmas in the summer.
Yeah, quite something.
It's brilliant. I don't recall speaking about darts outside of December, January in my previous 20-odd years of my...
Tell you what, I went and played darts a few weeks ago.
Did you?
And it's one of those things that I don't do very often. It's just, we went and played darts.
Did you reach the board?
I mean, look, I was I was quite pleased, but it is
tough.
But to try and think, I'm going to go for...
Yes.
It's just... I don't know how they do it.
Well, I used to speak to Phil Taylor, who's considered the greatest of all time. I used to deal with him quite a lot. And I used to phone him up. The power. And the power's been switched off now at the moment. But he used to say to me, look, don't ring me between 11 in the morning and 5 o'clock in the evening. I said, why is that, Phil? What are you up to? And he said, I'm down in the bunker, in the cellar, and I'm practising and practising and practising. Now, it's all about that repeat hand-eye coordination.
Yes. Yeah.
And he said to me, if he's done that all year round, it doesn't matter what abuse is thrown at him on the stage. It doesn't matter how heavy the lights are. how much pressure is involved.
He's trained.
Muscle
memory will stand him in good stead. And that's why repeatedly he won title after title after title.
That's dedication.
Well, it is, but
that's his job.
It is his job, yeah. Exactly. He earned very well out of it. Luke Littler also earning very well out of it. Molson in there already.
Well, good on him. Good on him. Wimbledon, what's going on?
Well, I want to focus on Emma Raducanu this time because she is up against a young girl from Swansea who is only 17 years old, doing her A-levels right now. Her name is Mimi Zhu. She's a qualifier and she believes she can shock Emma Raducanu in the early part of next week. Now, she's got fantastic form, Emma Raducanu. I'm not sure I'd back her against absolutely anyone at the moment. I was at Eastbourne earlier this week, but because I arrived on the second day, I missed her because she went out on the first day. But I do think more widely, we mentioned last hour briefly, didn't we? I do think tennis has got a little bit of a challenge on its hands. I went to see Nick Kyrgios at the Wimbledon Theatre on Tuesday night, and he was talking about how it's being challenged by games like paddle, and because it's cheaper and it's a smaller court. Tennis's problem, Stephen, and the reason we've not seen a conveyor belt of talent the way we have in Spain and other countries is because it can't get into schools. It's very difficult to get into schools because of the land it requires. The average comprehensive school does not have tennis courts. And if we're going to see an uptick in people coming out or don't forget competing with other sports as well, if we're going to see a surge, a flurry of people coming out of those schools, then the tennis has to be there in the first place.
It's quite middle class as well.
Without doubt. And I also look around, I was in Eastbourne, I must admit, but I had a fantastic time there earlier in the week, and I saw some great tennis. But I looked around the audience, looked around the crowd, and the numbers are very healthy, but of a certain demographic, of a certain age. Not just because it's Eastbourne, but also look at Queen's a couple of weeks ago, an older crowd in there. Apart from anything else, they're probably the only people who can afford the tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, 57 quid for a cheap seat at Eastbourne. I think they were going for even more at Queen's, and uncomfortable for a lot of people as well because the weather was extremely hot, particularly at Queen's. Eastbourne completes this week. Wimbledon underway from Monday.
Yeah. OK. Aidan, thank you very much
Good luck to the young Lions tonight as well, of course, against Germany.
under 21s.
Yeah.
Against Germany, they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to smash them. Anyway, that's enough of my predictions. We've got the papers with Kevin Schofield and Duncan Barks in just a moment. Morning, gents. First, sir, if you want a bit of holiday sun, here's the forecast for the European hotspots.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
We do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
8:44, good morning. Let's see what's in the papers this morning with Duncan Barks and Kevin Schofield. Duncan.
Yes.
The Mail is saying the Prime Minister regrets his speech in which he said the UK could become an island of strangers.
I'm not entirely sure this stands up to scrutiny, to be honest with you. So this was the speech that he gave. He used the phrase an island of strangers. He was talking about immigration. People criticised him for using that speech, saying there were echoes of the kind of remarks made by the former MP Enoch Powell back in the late 1960s. He's given an interview to, I think it's The Observer, and it's widely reported this morning, where he said, well, actually, I hadn't read the speech before I delivered it. Really. My speechwriters didn't really know the connotations of using such language, such as an island of strangers. Really? So maybe I'm being overtly cynical here, but I think he was making a speech to possibly try and appeal to the reform voter, which is a threat to Labour in the polls. There was a bit of a backlash, and now he's kind of like, oh, I regret doing it, etc., etc. Because I don't believe for one moment, with a team of speechwriters and someone who is a lawyer by trade, you telling me he didn't just have a glance at that speech before...
You wouldn't read a speech that you'd never seen, surely. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, yeah... If we assume that he's not telling the truth, then he's making himself look ridiculous. The idea that a Prime Minister would get up and just read out a speech without having gone through it first. He says he should have held it up to the light more, is how he describes it.
Yeah, but it
just makes him look ridiculous.
Well, it implies that we can't believe anything he says because he hasn't written it and hasn't read it.
And also, one of the main criticisms of Keir Starmer is that he doesn't believe in anything. He's just a mouthpiece for his advisers, and this just plays into that.
Well, it does, because do we now believe that he didn't believe it, and now he's... So he was reading out something he doesn't believe because now he's regretting it.
Which is worrying, you know, he's a Prime Minister. You think we should believe what he says. And also, I remember from the time there was the row, and they denied... it was right-wing connotations, Enoch Powell. Ministers were sent out to defend him, saying, no, that's not what he meant. And now he's turned around and saying, actually, you know what? I shouldn't have said it. So that makes all the people that defended him look silly as well, and they must be thinking...
It just feeds into this narrative. He flip-flops and he doesn't really know. We don't know what he stands for.
He doesn't, and I'm not sure he does.
Well, not if he's just reading out anything that's put on an auto cue.
Yeah, he just does not come out of it. Either way, it doesn't come out of it.
No, it's just a very odd thing to say.
It really is.
We're going to bake in 36 degrees heat, Kevin. according to the Express front page?
Yeah, so we've got...
The Express loves a weather story.
They are obsessed with weather stories, but, I mean, 36, I think... I was looking at the weather forecast this morning, and I couldn't see 36 anywhere, but it is definitely going to be hot. I think 33, 34, which is very hot for this time of year. I know it's the summer, but it's now happening again. But we only had another heat wave a week or two ago, didn't we? And in London in particular, I know, world's smallest violin, no one cares about London people suffering, but it is incredibly hot and uncomfortable. And this has been caused by a thing called a heat dome, which apparently is keeping the heat in.
Who knew?
It's keeping the heat in rather than it...
They always invent a new term, don't they? It's just hot.
Snow bombs, weather bombs and heat. Anyway, so East Midlands, South East, South West, East and London, weather alerts for those 5 regions because it is going to get very toasty indeed over the next few days. So plenty of factor 50, especially for us Scots.
Careful with the dogs as well.
And dogs don't leave that in the
you shouldn't walk your dogs and things of, like, I think it's above 23.
It's like early in the morning if you're taking your dog out very early in the morning.
I saw a brilliant analogy. Someone said, how would you like it if you were wearing a fur coat and had bare feet and someone was dragging you up the high street on pavements that have been baking in the sunshine at 28 Celsius? And that is exactly right, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You
Walk your dogs.
get little shoes for your dogs.
You can, yeah. Yeah, little Crocs.
Are they quite happy to wear them?
Apparently. Well, some dogs are. I can imagine
I haven't tried
you having a fight getting the shoes on your dog.
I do.
And have a nice cup of tea to settle down. It's good for you, apparently.
Yeah.
How many million cups of tea do we drink in Britain?
Well, it doesn't say in this, but it must be...
Well, it says here...
Many.
It says here on my bit of paper...
100. It does say...
100 million cups of
100 million.
tea every day we drink.
And researchers in China... examined data from 177,000 UK adults, 150,000 of whom drink tea, and they found that if you drink up to 2 cups a day, it reduces your risk of heart disease, stroke, and heart failure. But if you have sugar or sweetener, it completely wipes out those benefits. So if you're going to have tea for health reasons, don't have sweetener.
A nice cup of Earl Grey.
Oh, yes.
Lapsang Souchong.
Yeah.
Earl Grey, hot.
Lemon?
No.
Milk?
No, milk. I just wonder how China's done a survey of 177,000 Brits. Is that the 177,000 Brits who've got smart kettles made in China?
They had no idea that they were being researched, but they were.
No. Right, can we have a look at Live Aid? Bob Geldof said in the Express, Duncan, 40 years on, that it wouldn't work today.
I know, it's a shocker, isn't it? I had to read this twice because it seems like yesterday that we all sat in front of the telly or, you know, some people were there. I wasn't, and watched this amazing event unfold to raise funds that Bob Geldof organised. So he's given an interview for a documentary to celebrate 40 years. It'll be on the telly shortly. And he's made some really interesting comments. He says that basically rock and roll no longer has the currency now as it had back then. And he goes on to say it's been the most powerful art that there's ever been, but it has ceased to be the spine of our culture. It was of the moment and could transmit an idea to the game-changing part of the population. But I'm not sure that exists now. And I was thinking about this because, you know, we've got Glastonbury this weekend, for example. I think rock and roll has changed because there's more of it, if that makes sense. Since the explosion of the net, there's a lot more music out there. It's harder for bands to get cut through in the way that it was in the 80s. You could go to an independent record shop and say, "Would you stock my 7 inches or whatever, my records?" So I think it has changed a little bit. So you don't have these great bands that you used to.
No, I think it's true. But then when you look at the classic that was Live Aid and things like, I mean, who stole the show? Queen.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was phenomenal. What a set from them.
Absolutely. But you're right, we don't have the same iconic rock stars.
You get big individual stars who can massively make a difference.
Bands less so. Now, in terms of, like, massive cut-through, so you had U2, an iconic set as well. Phil Collins, who played
he flew to LA.
Wembley, then flew to LA, that's right.
Wouldn't be allowed to do that now because of the carbon footprint.
Probably not. So I get his point. Like, who would fill the set now that would make...
I think you used the right word. It's icon, isn't it? We don't have those icons. I know I'm sounding like an old git, but we don't have those icons now that we had back then.
It's true. It's true.
And it was all hinged on that, wasn't it? That's what drove the interest.
But enough people
money.
tune in nowadays as well on this sort of, hundreds of channels and internet and all the rest of it. It wouldn't be quite the same, would it?
It was a one-off.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're talking about what's changed in the world. Our healthcare plan is going to be... Forget going to the GP, Duncan. You just need to go and go to the supermarket.
This has made me quite grumpy this morning.
Oh, no.
We know there's an NHS 10-year plan going to be announced Monday or Tuesday of next week, and it appears part of it is to say to supermarkets you need to do more to promote healthier stuff, to stop people buying the donuts and the chocolate and stuff like this. And this is being pegged to Health Secretary Wes Streeting. So Uncle Wes would like supermarkets in the future to kind of make sure that when you walk in, that you're met with loads of shelves selling nice, healthy produce.
You get it anyway.
You get it anyway. But the bit about this story that I find really curious is that the shopping policy, as the Eye calls it, would mean that the biggest retailers would be required to record data showing how successful they are at nudging shoppers to swap potatoes for sweet potatoes, white bread for wholemeal bread, etc., etc. Fines could be introduced for supermarkets that consistently fail to meet standards. So why are we putting this pressure on supermarkets, private businesses, already under the cosh, if you're running a business in this country, with more red tape and bureaucracy? And I actually think most people are quite sensible. We all know...
What's wrong with a potato?
Apparently it's not as healthy as
sweet potatoes are meant to be better for you.
Are they?
But we all know a pack of celery is better for you than a bag of donuts, right? We all know that. So this idea that somehow supermarkets are going to enforce this idea...
Why don't they could do buy one, get one free for sort of apples and bananas and things, could they?
Well, yeah, but you want 2 bags of bananas.
It's one step away, isn't it, from someone over the tannoy when I'm in aisle 8 just going, oi, fat boy, put the chocolate down.
Step away from the crisps.
Away.
Yes.
Yeah. It's,
well, you have to battle your way through the fruit and veg before you get to the good stuff.
Exactly. You're right, it's the first thing that you see.
It is, it always is.
The boring stuff. Yeah. You kind of have
because it looks wonderful and smells nice.
You don't want to get to the checkout and it's just all rubbish. You want to...
It's the fight against obesity.
Oh, it drives me mad. All right, you two, thank you very much indeed. It's been good to see you.
Let's catch up with the weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere, it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now, that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales, turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now imagine this. You spend your entire life dreaming of public service. You work your way up to become the Director of Public Prosecutions. You then become a Member of Parliament, and just next to your constituency is a world-famous museum hosting
I'm imagining it, Tom.
waxworks of famous figures, and you think, you dream that one day you will be featured in this mausoleum, for want of a better word. You become Prime Minister, and you think, now, finally, my waxwork will be on display at the world-famous Madame Tussauds. And then they say no.
And then you find out that Theresa May has one.
Oh.
Yes, so Madame Tussauds... There's Theresa May. There she is in her suit.
Yeah,
she was always one for colourful outfits,
Theresa May has a waxwork there, so does Boris Johnson, of course. It's reasonable to expect the Prime Minister would have thought that he would join the likes of David Cameron, Theresa May and Boris Johnson with a waxwork.
Winston Churchill. Yeah. Winston Churchill has one. Harold Macmillan, apparently, was previously displayed. Tony Blair.
Of course.
Tony Blair, of course. But apparently, so Madame Tussauds can't be sure that he'll still be relevant in 5 years' time. That's the reason.
Is that why they've said it? No.
They can't be sure, so they don't want to put the money into it, presumably.
Wow.
I could imagine Keir Starmer commissioning his own.
And yet, Lord Salisbury had a waxwork, the Marquis of Salisbury, Harold Macmillan and David Lloyd George, of course. But the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland...
Think about this.
...does not have a waxwork because he's not relevant.
A spokesperson told the Metro, "We have no current plans to make a figure of the British Prime Minister."
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning. Could Labour restore the NHS?
The government outlines a 10-year plan to get our National Health Service back on track. And they say they're going to shift focus to community care, digital services and prevention rather than treatment.
Well, hospital funding and apparently staff salaries will be linked to patient satisfaction. But is this approach just a cost-cutting measure?
The Supreme Court delivers a major victory for President Trump by curbing the power of federal judges.
Our reporter Charlie Peters is taking on the 13 Bridges Challenge to raise money for military veterans, so we're catching up with him throughout the morning.
Raising money for armed forces veterans. Good morning, everyone. We're here on the 13 Bridges Challenge. Let's go!
And here in Cleethorpes, 200,000 people are going to be gathering here today to watch a fly past, to watch a parade. People already, as you can see, very keen to get their spots to see the likes of the Red Arrows and a Battle of Britain memorial flight.
Meanwhile, EU airport strikes are leaving British travellers stranded as EasyJet flights between Bristol and Spain are cancelled.
The billionaire Jeff Bezos has finally tied the knot with his bride Lauren Sanchez in Venice in front of a star-studded guest list, but the locals far from happy.
And fans are continuing to enjoy Glastonbury as Neil Young and Chrome Hearts are expected to headline tonight. Showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecchi will be there live for us.
Another heatwave on the way for many of us, but it won't be hot everywhere during the next few days. Significant differences across the UK. Full details in the forecast coming up soon.
Just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Loads of lovely little snippets in the papers this morning. How about this? There's a quick stop store in Duncanville in Tuscaloosa in the States that has been robbed. It's been robbed. But they've got CCTV footage, so they've released it, asking for the public's help.
Yeah.
The problem is that the suspect was dressed head to toe in a Scooby-Doo costume.
Difficult.
Yes.
But if you know somebody with a Scooby-Doo costume,
yeah, but
there can't be that many people.
How do you use it as evidence?
You dob them in, don't you, I suppose?
Dog them in.
Dob them in, yeah.
Anyway, so it's just a weird thing. It'd be the funniest thing to see on the show, wouldn't it?
But that story is
Have you seen this suspect?
Yeah, is he a native of Tuscaloosa?
Tuscaloosa.
Wonderful name.
Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, shall we have a quick check-in with Charlie? See how he's getting on his 13 Bridges challenge. Morning, Charlie.
Good morning, guys. Very great to be with you this morning. And I'm especially glad to be joined by Mandy this morning. Mandy with me here. How are you finding the challenge so far, Mandy?
It's all right so far because it's not too hot.
Yeah, that's a tremendous relief. And you're a veteran yourself, but also a beneficiary of SAFA, Mandy.
I am, yeah. I served 12 years in the Royal Air Force. And then SAFA supported myself and my son when my husband took his own life.
Yeah, it's a tremendously sad story. Your husband, Chris, himself a veteran suffering from PTSD after a tour in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I mean, he suffered for a long time. So in 21 years, he did 15 tours. So I think everything compounded. But SAFA are fantastic.
Yeah, and it's that support, isn't it? Giving people the guidance that they need and coming together and helping people at their hardest time. That SAFA and other armed forces charities really make a difference.
They really do. I mean, the support we got, it wasn't just life-changing, it was life-saving, which was so important at the time. And SAFA, they were strong for me, which meant that I could be strong for our son.
Yeah. And your son now, 17, he must be so proud of his father's memory and your service as well.
I think so. You know, we talk about his dad all the time, and it's very, very important that we keep his memory alive. So we're doing little things. So we've just got his name on a memorial wall at our local football club, which again is important because it shows Jamie that he'll always be remembered.
So beautiful. I think our viewers and listeners will be so touched by that. And as you're completing this march today, these 10 miles, you just saw some of the cadets behind us now. What are you thinking about as you make that march?
It's how many people come out to support the charity, which I think is so important, because without all our supporters, without our volunteers, you know, SAFA can't exist. And SAFA are there when people need them the most, and that needs to be able to continue. So without things like this and everyone supporting us, it won't.
Mandy, it's a great honour to be marching with you today and to hear from you this morning. So, Stephen and Anne, you've heard about so much of the work that's going on today, about the kind of people that SAFA and other armed forces charities that we are supporting at GB News today are getting involved with. I hope we can bring a QR code on your screen now. We are raising money for armed forces veterans and their families because they need it. We've got many more bridges to go. We are underneath Millennium Bridge now, so I'll head up there with Mandy and the team. Speak to you shortly, guys.
All right, thank you, Charlie. It is SAFA does some incredible work, actually, and not only for veterans and people struggling, but also for the families of those who've been lost, which is a huge support, actually, because it means as much as anything else, they're feeling the support of that military family around them who feel it when they lose one of their own. So it's a great, great charity.
And if you want to support them, we showed the QR code a bit ago.
Is it working now?
I don't know, but if you're not into QR codes, and some people aren't, because sometimes it just doesn't work, just Google 13 Bridges Challenge. It takes you right to the webpage.
Right, lovely. So you can find your way there one way or another. Our main news this morning is about the NHS overhaul that's going to be announced this coming week. Hospital funding, though we're told, could become dependent on patient ratings.
And that's going to mean that salaries for doctors and nurses will become tied to how satisfied their patients are.
The changes come in hopes of cutting down waiting lists. Well, that's always a hope, isn't it? And interestingly, we call it the Prime Minister's 10-year plan to restore the NHS rather than the Health Secretary's. I don't know why.
No, that is weird.
Interesting.
Also weird is that the fact that the head of the NHS, Sir Jim Mackey, has welcomed this move, and he has said that the Health Service views patients as an inconvenience.
Doesn't give you a lot of confidence, does it? Let's talk to political commentator John Oxley. Morning, John.
Good morning.
Does this plan actually look like it makes any sense at all?
Well, I mean, we've yet to see the full details of the plan, but Sir Jim Mackey, who's running it, used to run Northumbria, which was the most successful, most well-regarded trust in the NHS, and has quite a good reputation within the NHS for building good systems. And I think what we're seeing at the moment is more the headline ideas that we're trying to reorientate the service so it does more with the money that's allocated to it. It isn't always asking for more money, and also is looking at what do people actually want from a health service, which I think is a really good thing to focus on in terms of looking at patients. I mean, we don't really like the word customers, but people who interact with the health service, all of us, are we happy with the service we're getting? Do we feel like they respect us? And I think that will make a big change for a lot of people.
It's ambitious, really, politically anyway, to come up with a 10-year plan. There are things that can be done more quickly than that. I mean, Tony Blair came into office and vowed that he would cut waiting lists, and he really did. So you wonder if they shouldn't be setting themselves a sort of shorter-term objective.
Yes, and we'll see, how the plan develops with that, and there's things that are going on at the moment with trying to bring those waiting lists down. But Tony Blair had a big advantage. He could chuck a load of money into the NHS. He had a growing economy. That's not something we have. And also, we have an ageing population, so the challenges for the NHS are going to get harder and harder. So really, there's good reasons to look at this strategically, look at what's coming along on a 10-year horizon and think, not just how do we solve the problems today, but actually how do we build a robust system so that in 10 years' time we're not having the same, what are the emergency levers we can pull to get this down by 2 years?
Yeah, one of the shifts, though, seems to be looking at preventative medicine rather than treatment. Now, look, that makes sense in some aspects of life, and it's obviously a lot cheaper if you can prevent conditions rather than just having to treat them. The problem is, at what point does this become complete Big Brother? I mean, the stories in the papers about supermarkets telling us we need to be nudged towards the fruit and veg rather than the chocolate. It does seem rather controlling.
Yes, and I think that's one of the challenges, and I think people rightly object. A lot of the time we all like a burger or a drink, particularly on days like today, I think, when it's nice and sunny. And the NHS really, and our health service, has to accept that. And I think the more interesting things around prevention are actually how do we get early catching of diseases so we can treat them more easily, and looking at that rather than thinking how do we force everyone to live lifestyles they don't necessarily want to.
It is interesting as well, isn't it, that it's Keir Starmer who's making this announcement rather than Wes Streeting.
But I think that just shows how important getting the NHS right is to this government.
Is it not a sign of Keir Starmer desperate for a good headline?
I think it's partly that, but I think also one of the big issues before the last election was how these waiting lists had gone up. It's one of the key missions of any government is to run the NHS well, and particularly for Labour government, they put a lot of pride in that. So I think it would be difficult. And the other thing you always have to remember with this is health secretaries are easier to dislodge than prime ministers, and you don't want to end up in a situation where Wes Streeting is the flagship person of this, and for whatever reason he ends up moving department, and it feels like the whole thing is going to start again with whoever comes in place.
Well, if Keir Starmer's position became difficult, I mean, Wes Streeting is top-notch for the job, isn't he?
He's certainly one of the names that are in the mix. How popular he is with the Labour Party members and MPs, I think there's a bit more doubt about that. But certainly, he's always had this reputation as someone to watch. And the NHS is a big brief and is the sort of thing that, if you do it well in the Labour Party, could boost your leadership chances.
I mean, the PM is in a lot of bother. I mean, we can't get away from the welfare reform bill, where, I mean, someone with a huge parliamentary majority has basically had power removed from him. He's had to kowtow, bow down to Labour rebels, which was unthinkable 12 months ago.
Yes, and it's quite remarkable. Normally, particularly if you won a big majority, your parliamentary party are really thrilled and they stay on side. But what we're seeing so far is that really Keir Starmer's not been able to win the hearts and minds of these new MPs. This welfare thing in particular, I think a lot of them are sort of feeling, why on earth did we win a big election if we're just going to do austerity over again? These are people who got involved in politics a lot of the time, after the 2010 election. They're people in their 30s who really grew up opposing those sort of cuts. And so it's very predictable. But there's still an economic situation that he has to juggle. There is not the money in the system to be spending lots everywhere in the way Tony Blair could do.
OK, John, good to see you.
One of our lovely viewers makes a very good point, saying preventive medicine is nothing new. It has limited use. And, by the way, nothing reverses ageing.
No, well, that's true.
And it is an ageing population that it is so expensive for the NHS.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stop everything. We can stop some things, but then also you need to balance it out against freedom of choice. It may be stupid to eat a donut, but we have the choice to do it, don't we?
Yes.
Well, we don't want to live in a state where you're...
They ban donuts.
Well, no. I mean, this is it, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, let's move on to something better, because it's about celebrating, protecting and raising money. Because it's Armed Forces Day today, where serving personnel, veterans and cadets are all being celebrated for their service.
Yes, the weekend will include a culmination of events, including the Cleethorpes Carnival Parade.
So we head to Cleethorpes now, because it's looking beautiful there today. Jack Carson. Morning, Jack.
Well, let me tell you, we've got some clear skies and beautiful sunshine, so we should be perfect for that Red Arrows flight display team a little bit later on. And also, hopefully, we're going to get a glimpse of the Chinook and the World War II bomber memorial flight as well. Cleethorpes here has a rich military history. Today, 200,000 people are going to be turning up, and all around there are the celebrations of those veterans and those current serving military personnel. Now, we're here with the guys from HMS Antrim. Let's go and have a chat to a few of them. Nigel Smith, will come to you first. Hi. Now, you've got this beautiful bench which has been you've done and commissioned. Tell us about HMS Antrim and that story, because I don't think it's something actually a lot of people probably know.
So HMS Antrim was in the Falklands War in 1982. We were a bunch of young lads, 17 years old, going to war. No idea what was happening, when it was happening. We're just told we're going down south and we're going to war with the Argentinians. To be honest, half of them thought we was going up north to Scotland. So you imagine it's been 17 years old, we're on a warship, join the Navy, see the world, and suddenly we're all going to war at 17-year-old. And we're all, well, half a dozen of us here at the moment.
And what was that like, that experience? And is that something you had to get your head over at the start? Or was it just a case of you've got a duty to do and you're going to go on and do it?
Yeah, I think when you're a sailor, you join the Navy, you get whatever job you've got, you do your job, and then you get thrown at you going to war. None of us really had any idea what that would be all about, just to get that thrown at you. Because in them days, you never joined the Navy to go to war. As now, it's a lot different. You've got a good chance of going into a combat zone, or certainly defending whatever you're defending in the forces nowadays. But for us, really a bit of a blur, because we didn't really get told a great deal.
And you've got obviously loads of other people here as well. I mean, so we can see on the bench there, Grey Ghost. Tell us about that. Where's the name Grey Ghost come from?
Right, the Grey Ghost comes from where we travelled south back in '82. There was no transmission on radars, radio frequencies, so we're basically silent. The ship was silent, and this is where we got the name, the Grey Ghost.
And for you, what does Armed Forces Day mean for you? You've got your bench here, you're celebrating here today. Is it about a celebration of the forces? What does it mean for you today?
For me, it's literally celebrating the brotherhood of the Antrim, plus recognising what the Armed Forces do. It's under-recognised, and the country doesn't really have an armed forces anymore. And they need to start thinking, we need the armed forces. Back in '82, we had best part of 100 warships. You don't have that anymore. So we had the camaraderie. We knew what we were doing. It's all computerised anymore now and stuff like that, but nobody knows what we did in '82, and that was a big thing for the Antrim. We were the first ship since World War II to sink a submarine for a start. We were the first ship down there, the last ship back, and we went back down there 2 months after we had a repair damage done. You know, and it is the camaraderie of the lads and the teamwork.
Thank you all so much for joining us this morning and telling us the story of HMS Antrim back all the way, of course, in the 1980s when that Falklands War was declared. And here in Cleethorpes, as I was saying, 200,000 people coming here today, about the size of Glastonbury. That's how much people here today really want to celebrate all of the armed forces. You were mentioning at the start, Stephen, it's not just the current serving personnel and, of course, those millions of veterans that live in the UK as well. It's all of those cadets. It's that next generation of the armed forces. Everyone here today proudly and rightfully being celebrated.
Lovely stuff. Jack, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, I love that bench. That's really
fantastic,
beautiful.
isn't it?
Bit of
And
work,
it's stories like the Antrim that we need to be reminded about, and we need to. And good on the fellas for turning up, and it's all this stuff that goes on that we don't know.
17-year-old lads off to war. Isn't that amazing to just hear that phrase?
I mean, it's horrific.
Yeah.
Actually, isn't it? Really.
But they're still heroes. They're doing a great job.
Of course they are.
Isn't it lovely up in Cleethorpes at the moment?
Looks beautiful.
I have never been to Cleethorpes.
No, I don't know that I have, actually.
But clearly, on a nice day, it looks fab.
And the Red Arrows are going to be
I know,
up there.
you're going to get a wonderful fly past.
I mean, I'm sorry. But Red Arrows, nobody does it better than the Red Arrows.
They really don't. And they're running low on aeroplanes, aren't they, the Red Arrows?
Are they?
Yes, there's a shortage of...
They're Hawk T2s.
Hawks, that's right, yeah.
I've flown in one.
Have you?
Flown in a Hawk T2, yeah, the RAF took me up a few years ago.
Of course, that's a bit frightening, isn't it?
It was terrifying, but one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. Flew over the lakes at about, I don't know, 150 feet off the... I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I flew in a Spitfire.
I know. I've seen the video. Anyway, look, let's see what the weather's going to do wherever you are in the UK today.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales. Turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I was just showing off my pictures.
Pictures of... Oh, you look absolutely heroic, even though you weren't flying the plane.
In my flight suit.
Yeah. Which is weird. Apparently it...
Oh, it's all the inflation for the G-force and all that. It's just unbelievable.
Crumbs. Yeah, OK.
Terrifying.
I'm envious, but I don't think I could actually do that.
No. I couldn't do it again.
Did it do 12 whirlies?
Lots and lots. The G-force is unbelievable.
OK, rather you than me, I think, on that one.
It's great, though.
Yeah, but the pictures are fabulous.
Pictures look great.
Whoa.
Anyway, look, Charlie Peters is carrying on his 13 Bridges challenges, and we're going to talk to him and lots of people who are doing that with him in a few minutes.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello again. Now, as we were saying earlier, it is Armed Forces Day today, which is a very important day for us all, really, because we should all be remembering and paying tribute in some way. But it's a very special day for our reporter, Charlie Peters. He'll tell us why, actually. He is taking on the 13 Bridges Challenge. Morning, Charlie, again. Where are you now?
Morning, Stephen. Morning, Anne. Well, I've got Blackfriars just to my left here, so quite a few bridges we've gone down now, and I'm very happy to say that I'm joined by Nick Rose, a man I served with previously. He did 30 years. I'm just 10 years into my reserve service. But Nick, it's great to be with you today. How are you finding this?
Yeah, it's great. It takes a year to prepare this event, and we've got 150 military reservists involved today, and it's just fantastic to have the support of London and support of the Army units.
And over 1,200 people taking part in 13 Bridges today, supporting SAFA and other military charities. We're doing the same here at GB News. What sort of support are they offering Armed Forces personnel?
They offer any sort of support, maybe that some serving families got a child that needs a lift to go up the stairs, so help them with that, or maybe they'll need some tuition to help retrain them to get out of the Army and to do something else. And it's the same for the Navy and the Air Force as well. One day involved in the forces and they'll help you for life.
Stephen and Anne, that's so key. You just take one day of military service in this country to be counted as a veteran. Once you've had your 1 day service in the uniform, then you're counted, then SAFA will offer you that support. You don't need to be having 30 years on your back like Nick Rose here, a proud former corporal. You can just get involved, no matter the support you need, have the confidence to step forward and ask for support, because it is there for military veterans and their family, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. It is there, and all you need to do is to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really key message that we're trying to get across today, Stephen and Anne, raising this money for SAFA and other armed forces charities. There's plenty of support available for their families, and of course, the armed forces are front and centre of the national consciousness at the moment. So much going on in the world to make people quite nervous, frankly, about what's going on. And we need our armed forces community to be resilient and ready to stand up and support the nation.
That's right. It's a family, and I spent 30 years with them. You make your life with them, and it is thoroughly enjoyable. And I recommend anyone who's thinking of a career in the army, whatever age you are, up to about 40, I believe, 46, then please join the Armed Forces Reserves and serve your country.
Yes, you get to work with Nick and I. All right, thanks very much, Stephen and Anne. Back to you. We've got plenty more bridges to conquer and plenty more money raising here for SAFA and other armed forces charities. I hope we can get a QR code on your screen to support the GB News appeal. Speak to you soon. Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers, Charlie.
Yeah,
Keep
that's
it up.
quite a good team there going, because the 13 bridges is basically they're walking along the Thames, but every time they come to a bridge, they cross it.
They cross it.
It's a sort of crisscrossy idea.
Yeah.
And the idea is to raise as much funds as possible. If you caught the QR code that we just put up a minute ago, that's where you can get involved. But also you can just Google 13 Bridges Challenge, and it comes up straight away, and it tells you all about it and how you can help it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant thing to do, and it'd be a lovely day to do it.
Yeah. Or if you're in Cleethorpes, you can get along to the beach, and you'll be able to witness the fly past, which sounds as though it's going to be good.
Red arrows.
Barbara's been in touch. She says, "Morning, Stephen and I. If you've never been to Cleethorpes, you must. It's a real old English seaside town. We live there, and the weather is lovely. Have a great day."
Barbara, we're on our way. Frankly, we get the kettle on.
Yeah.
In the meantime, do you fancy a bit of money? £54,321 could all be yours. Here's how.
This is your chance to enjoy luxury this summer. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life. Somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, it's nearly here now, the much-awaited return of Oasis. Their reunion tour starts next week, but according to new data, fans have already faced millions of pounds worth of scams.
Well, our North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper spoke to one of the victims of the scams, as well as a couple of Oasis superfans.
Next week, one of the biggest events ever for the world of music. The much-anticipated return of the one and only Oasis. The Gallagher brothers will kick off their reunion tour at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff, performing to crowds of thousands of fans, both old and new. But since the tour was announced, some might say things have been far from supersonic.
In my heart, I wanted it to be true, which is why I believed it. I never thought I'd fall for a scam. They're just very smart. They know how to get you.
When tickets went on sale last August, millions were left disappointed. Sites crashed, dynamic pricing sent costs through the roof, and many were unable to obtain tickets. This opened the door to con artists who've since scammed over 5,000 fans out of more than £2 million.
I came across a video on TikTok of a girl around my age. She said she was selling 4 Oasis tickets and I was interested in buying 2. And she sent a screenshot from Ticketmaster telling her that she could only send 2 or more tickets. So I just made both payments. So that was £250 and she just kept stalling, and it got to the point where I knew I wasn't going to be sent the tickets.
Following the sheer volume of scams, online safety experts McAfee want people to take all necessary precautions. They gave GB News their top tips for staying safe around potential scams. Look out for heavily discounted tickets, be wary of sellers appearing in your inbox, don't make payments without protection, and watch out for lookalike websites and for grammar and spelling errors. And yet, as the tour gets ever closer, for superfans like brothers Josh and Connor, nothing has been able to dampen their Oasis fever.
We've been Oasis fans all our lives. It's the best feeling ever. I never thought this would happen. I thought they were done in 2009, so to be able to actually see them live is going to be incredible.
Nothing will ever top them, do you know what I mean? I think the best music's already been made, and it was them, and that's it. No one will ever top that, so yeah, it's once in a lifetime, really.
I only want to see the light that shines behind your eyes.
For many fans of the band, they've waited years for a chance to see Liam and Noel reunite on the stage. And although even the band themselves have advised caution when buying last-minute tickets,
Someday you will find me caught beneath the landslide.
the UK still seems to be in for an Oasis-style champagne supernova this summer. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
I mean, Sophie needs a prize for getting all those song titles in there.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Very good.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was never into Oasis particularly, but my goodness, there are super fans, aren't there?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
enormous amount of people out there are looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I mean, it was just sensational. Anyway, there you go. We're going to be talking music a little bit later on, actually, because we're going to be talking to Steph Tetschi about
Who's at Glastonbury.
Again. But anyway, more on that in a moment.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.
Should we be paying more for the BBC, do you think?
Yes, in the short term. It's for a cost of a cappuccino a week. You don't only get all the television channels, you get all the radio channels, local news, you get the websites, you get World Service, a significant amount of that. You've got a vast range of things. It's not just a television licence. And the BBC licence fee, in real terms, has gone down about 40% in 15 years. What I think we need is two things. One is an immediate increase, significant increase, so we stabilise the situation.
Go on, how much, Roger? What's the fee?
Hold on.
Well, tell me how much.
Then, secondly, hold on, we need to have a proper debate publicly about whether we want public service broadcasting, how we want to deliver it, and how we want to pay for it. The BBC has cut as much as it can. We should now have a public debate about what we want.
OK. All right, the BBC's cut as much as it can. I mean, grief. I would love to try to see the BBC try to operate on the kind of budget.
I thought you were chairman, objective chairman here. It was a head-to-head with this lady, and you were going to be an objective chairman.
Yeah, well, you decided not to answer any of my questions. But anyway, June, I'll put this one to you. Well, what do you think about the money?
Yes.
June, what do you think about the money being paid for the BBC? Should we pay more?
In 2020, you lost 80, let's have a look, 80,000. And then by 2023 to 24, that went up to 500,000 licence fees not being paid. That's because they don't want the product. A lot of the reason is the biased side of the news, which is why people watch GB News. The programme making, I can understand the creative part of it, but what you've got to look at from the public's point of view is they pay their licence whether they're using all those facilities or not.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
The Chelsea Flower Show, stunning annual event filled with all things garden designs and floral displays that make you really, really green with envy.
Yeah, Dolly Just Gardener Tom Massey has won this year's gold medal for best construction. So we understand it's the Avanade Intelligent Garden. And he joins us now. Tom, you better explain all of this. What is the garden? What were you trying to achieve? And why is it construction?
And why is it intelligent? Morning.
Questions. Good morning. So the garden at the Chelsea Flower Show was sponsored by Avanade, who are a technology company, and it won a gold medal and the best construction award. So it was awarded the garden that was the most well put together, I suppose, at the show. And that ranges from the hard landscaping all the way through to the technology that we had in the garden. So the intelligent angle is all about AI and using sensors and live data to be able to talk to the trees on the garden. So visitors to the show were able to log in on an app and have a conversation with the trees to find out how they were faring and what they might need.
What did the trees think about it all then?
The trees generally said they needed more water because it was very hot and dry at Chelsea. So yeah, there was a lot of watering to be had.
Well, when you say talk to the trees, I mean it sounds crazy, obviously, as you know. But is this a case of sensors being able to sort of tell you what is going on with the trees?
Exactly that, yeah. So sensors around the trees in the soil and on the trunks of the trees gather live data, so how much they're growing, how much moisture is in the soil, they could also predict the weather conditions, so what the upcoming weather patterns are going to be like. That's then fed to an AI system, which interprets that data, knows what the trees need and how they should be faring, and then allows a dialogue-based conversation. So using text, you could talk to the trees, or talk to the data, is probably more accurate, to ask, how they're faring and what they might need.
I mean, clearly, if this is sponsored by a tech company, then that was part of your brief, or certainly what your idea, that made it unusual. We're never going to have gardens like that for ordinary people, though, or are we?
I think you'd be surprised, yeah. I think sensors are not new technology. So there are all sorts of sensors you can get that tie in with irrigation systems, for example, that, if it is raining or if the soil is moist, then it won't activate the irrigation. But I think the added component of AI, as AI becomes more widespread and more adopted, and as costs come down, I think you will see these kinds of systems even in residential settings.
I always think of Chelsea Flower Show a bit like going to a fashion show where you see these sort of extreme things and you wonder how it's going to filter down to the high street eventually. What do we take if we were to go and look at your garden? What do we take away from that we can implement in our own garden now, aside from the technology?
Yeah, so the garden was really all about the plight of urban trees. So around the world, globally, urban trees are really a threat. You've probably seen in cities and towns around the UK, street trees struggling. So really suffering in the heat, being planted in very hostile environments. And there's some really hard-hitting facts. 50% of urban trees don't survive up to 10 years. But it takes around 50 years for an urban tree to reach its ecological peak. and it takes up to nearly 20 years for a tree to even become carbon neutral after being planted. So we're really planting these deficient urban forests all around the world, and the garden was really about exploring how technology and nature can, they often seem quite at odds with each other, but there are ways in which technology can support us as custodians of natural landscapes, particularly in harsh city environments. But I think the things in the garden that homeowners could take away is, the importance of trees. There's a good sized tree for any size of garden, whether it's a small urban garden or a larger, rural estate. Bringing trees into your landscape, it brings so many benefits, from habitat for wildlife to shelter to shade to cooling of the air and beauty as well. Trees are really valuable, beautiful objects in a landscape.
Here, absolutely. Where would we be without our trees? It's lovely to talk to you, and congratulations, by the way, because I know that one heck of a career boost winning at Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge team effort. I mean, it's for everything to come together in the right way in order to get a gold medal and win the best construction is, there's a lot of moving parts, and yeah, it was a really amazing team effort. So we were all delighted with the result.
Congratulations.
Tom Massey, really good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I love trees.
I do. I absolutely adore trees.
We've got quite a few trees at home, and they are just alive with birds and squirrels and all sorts of them. And it's lovely.
It's such an interesting point you made about urban trees, though, because a tree-lined street is a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it? But that's quite shocking, hearing that 50% of them die within 5 or 10 years. That is shocking. We do need to look after them better.
Yeah, we do. That's a waste of money as much as anything else.
Yeah.
Right, still to come. Have you got Glastonbury FOMO? Fear of missing out? No.
But Stephanie Tetchy would, because she's always there. So we're going to be talking to her. I wonder if she's got the same little tent.
She has.
Oh, right.
I've seen it online.
Oh, right,
Leopard print.
Well, we'll be talking to her because she loves a bit of Glastonbury. In a couple of moments. First of all, though, if you're in search of some holiday sun, stay at home. No, I didn't mean that. Here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading further afield for a holiday over the next few days, windy in Greece, but widespread sunshine for much of the Mediterranean, and I suspect increasingly hot in many places. We've got a keen breeze for Madeira and the Canaries, nothing unusual for the time of year. The heat continues to build through Spain, Portugal, France and Italy. Temperatures high 30s and in some places low or even mid 40s. Very breezy through Greece, but staying largely sunny.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
He's not just a presenter, he's an award-winning television icon. A household name for decades, from GMTV to This Morning, and now waking up Britain on GB News Breakfast. Join Eamon Holmes, TV royalty and multiple Trick Award winner, as we bring you the news that matters. This isn't just breakfast TV, this is GB News Breakfast. Every morning from 6 a.m. on GB News.
Talking about talking to trees.
Oh, yes.
Angela's been in touch. Morning, Angela. She says, just to say, I talk to the trees near me, and I find a large beech, a horse chestnut, and then I stand quietly, and you close your eyes and you wrap your arms around it. If you can relax and just feel, you can feel its energy, especially in the morning when the sap is rising. It's very calming.
You see, I'm all for that. I know it sounds a bit hippy-dippy and new-agey.
Yeah, but why not? If it makes you feel good. If you feel that, if you are convinced that you're getting something from it, then do it. Go hug a tree.
Yeah.
But anyway, she recommends a beech or a horse chestnut.
Right, yeah. Being a tree hugger. Used to be... They say that about the king, don't they? He's a tree hugger.
And he talks to plants, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Anyway, at 9:49, very nearly, Glastonbury Festival is back, and... no surprise, it's got a star-studded lineup.
Well, of course. Rod Stewart takes the legend slot, while the 1975 Neil Young and Chrome Hearts are headlining on the Pyramid stage.
BBC says it's not showing Neil Young's headline set, but at his request.
Why, I wonder?
I don't know, that's odd, isn't it?
Festival goers will need to keep their wits about them because there's a second amber heat health alert. It either rains or it absolutely... the sun comes out and everybody roasts. Anyway, that's what it's like there. And, of course, somebody who knows that all too well is Stephanie Tetchy, who joins us now. Ah, yes, you have got the same tent. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, the tent's become an icon of its own now at Glastonbury, and people are always taking selfies with it, so it's almost right that she turns up every year, like myself.
So what are you looking forward to, Steph? And tell us about Neil Young and not wanting to be televised.
Wow. Neil Young almost pulled out of performing at Glastonbury earlier this year because he said that the festival had sold out to corporate control by being involved with BBC, which obviously airs all of the performances here. So he backtracked. He said he wanted to perform at Glastonbury. It had been a dream of his, but there's now one thing that he came out with to say that he will perform, but it cannot be broadcast on BBC or it cannot be streamed on any of their online platforms. So clearly Neil Young still has a bit of a problem with the BBC and its association with Glastonbury.
How strange, isn't it? But anyway, there does seem to be a very good lineup, as usual. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, yesterday I really enjoyed seeing Alanis Morissette. She was amazing, pure 90s icon, which was fantastic. Today, obviously, Neil Young will be headlining on the Pyramid stage, but I'm also looking forward to seeing Sir Rod Stewart tomorrow and Nile Rodgers. because he always brings a bit of a disco flavour to Glastonbury. So I think those two will be really, really good. And you know what, I'm looking to get my dance on tonight with The Prodigy, which will be quite interesting. But obviously, Keith Flint is no longer alive, so it'll be interesting to see how the band still pull it off.
Yeah. It's interesting when you lose your key member like that, whether it with quite the same, I don't know. Now, we've been talking, because we've been mentioning the Chrome Hearts this morning.
We don't know them.
But we don't know them. What sort of music are they?
You know what, it's so bad. I don't know who they are also. I haven't heard much about them.
No, it makes us feel better.
I think they're like electro. I think they're like dance electro, but I think they're quite popular, but I don't know who they are.
No, well, no worries,
because the time warp.
Because Rod Stewart is going to be the legend, and as you said, that will be worth looking forward to. It's wonderful going to a Rod Stewart concert. It used to be because all the fellas dress up as Rod Stewart.
Oh, do
they all look like him. Yes.
Actually, I have seen a couple of guys with like Rod Stewart wigs on. Actually, so I think they're getting ready.
Oh, well, there you go. I tell you what, I did notice reading up, Steph, that I noticed that opposite the pyramid stage, there's a pop-up church now, if you need a bit of calm and reflection.
Well, they've done that really well this year. There's so many points that they've just made called wellness spaces, because like yesterday, it was so hot. So I think what they're doing with these kind of spaces, you can get calm, peace, a bit of clarity before you go back into the madness, because the music is playing till about 5 a.m. sometimes, and there's so much choice here. So definitely when it's hot, and Monday, I think, is looking to be about over 30 degrees. So you do need those moments of calm.
Yeah. Look, Steph, you're still the only woman I've ever known who can look glamorous in a field. Good to see you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's nearly it from us, but Charlie and Miriam are here doing Saturday Morning Live, which is a bit odd because Charlie's doing that 13 Bridges thing at the same time. So how are you going to cope, Miriam?
Charlie isn't actually here. He is out in the sunshine or possibly the clouds, but on his walk. We'll throw to him in a minute. But we've got some fascinating debates here in the studio. Has sex education gone too far? And should hospitals be paid on the result of how well doctors have done their job? So lots happening here in the studio. But what's going on out on the Thames, Charlie?
Hi Miriam, sorry I can't join you in the studio this morning, but we are covering this excellent 13 Bridges event, raising money for military veterans and their families. We're walking all the way from Tower Bridge all the way down to Fulham. It's a 10-mile march. That is an iconic distance for the military, the 10-miler distance. 1,200 taking part today, many of them military veterans, and we're raising money for those families, those support them, and so many of the people who've benefited from SAFA and other charities are here today. Join me in a second, but first it's time for your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A grey start for many of us this morning, a breezy start as well, but it does turn brighter and then it turns increasingly hot over the next few days in many places, but not everywhere. There are certainly contrasts across the country this morning. Windy in the far northwest with some showers, a cloudy zone through England, Wales, southern Scotland, drizzly rain for northern England, north and west Wales, the coasts of the southwest. But elsewhere it tends to brighten up, and as the sun comes through, up to 30 Celsius in the southeast and feeling very humid with that. Fresher for Scotland and Northern Ireland, not quite as breezy as we end the afternoon, and still some showers, but otherwise largely fine. Some late sunshine and actually a more pleasant feel, I suspect, compared with conditions further south. We're talking about 18, 19 Celsius at 5 p.m. Northern Ireland, likewise, a bit of cloud towards the southeast, but otherwise mostly fine and bright. But for Northern England, parts of North Wales, and some coastal and hillier areas of West Wales and the southwest, we keep a lot of low cloud, mist and some drizzle right the way through the day. Now that zone of cloud and drizzly rain tends to fizzle away overnight as higher pressure builds from the south. We'll still see a lot of cloud across some western parts of the country, but clear spells elsewhere. And it's a particularly muggy night for sleeping, with temperatures in some spots no lower than 18 or 19 Celsius. That gets us off to a warm start on Sunday, with plenty of sunshine first thing through East Anglia in the southeast, as well as for the northern half of Scotland. But elsewhere, a lot of cloud once again. That cloud will tend to push north, lift and break. Sunny spells developing across much of England and Wales, turning cloudier for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland with some spots of rain. Cool here, but increasingly hot in the southeast. Monday is hotter again.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Vegetarians have a greater desire to wield power more than their meat-eating counterparts. I mean, you like a sausage, don't you, Biggins?
I like a sausage, but I have gone off meat per se, funnily enough, as I'm getting older. I think there are, it takes a lot of eating a piece of meat, if you pardon the expression.
And the older you get, the more you find that it takes a lot of eating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I must admit, I have more of a conscience about eating meat as I get older.
Yeah.
And that's a fondness of animals brings that. And if you ever go on Instagram and you look at cows and horses and pigs,
they're wonderful.
They're all affectionate and incredible.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And there we are, putting it into our mouths and eating it.
What do you think about the move to enforce vegetarianism on people, though? Because especially in schools and some universities, there's this trend for Meat-Free Monday, where there's this enforced absence of meat on children.
I think it's ridiculous. Let kids do what they want, to be honest with. Within reason, obviously, a healthy diet, da-da-da-da-da. But no, I think, I don't eat meat. The husband eats meat. It's not an issue. Eat what you want. But I think the fact that they're trying to force this into schools, look, let kids experiment, give them a vegetarian option.
Yes,
let them
all
see
schools do that.
Just options.
It has just become political, and also there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I know children are often told that eating meat is terrible for the environment, but importing avocados thousands of miles is also terrible for the environment.
But also, I mean, a lot of vegetarian meals, certainly processed vegetarian meals, have got a load of salt and fat and sugar in them, so they're actually worse for you than eating a lean piece of meat.
I think the tide is turning now, because the new trend amongst young people, particularly young men, is protein. Chicken, breasts, tuna. That's the new trend, to get as much protein in them as possible. It's very difficult to do when you're vegetarian.
GB News, the People's Channel.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row. So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.